Operation on Monday involving Gardaí, the Irish Coast Guard and the Donegal Mountain Rescue Team as a probable murder case involving a missing man. Investigations are continuing today and a blood-spattered car is being forensically examined while a house in Killybegs was also sealed off. A man and a woman were arrested in connection with the suspected assault between Saturday and Sunday but were last night released without charge. Gardaí are again appealing to anyone with information to come forward. Any road users who were travelling in the Slieve League, Killybegs area last Saturday or Sunday and who may have camera footage are also being asked to make it available. Public access to Slieve League remains closed off while the investigations continue.
Public health is being put at risk by faulty septic tanks. An EPA report on domestic wastewater treatment systems has found half of septic tanks in Ireland failed inspections last year, with 20% of those posing a risk to human health and the environment. It also says enforcement orders to fix faults by local authorities is inconsistent. In Donegal, 44% of septic tanks failed inspections, with 83% of them fixed by the end of last year. Noel Byrne of the EPA says local authorities must make homeowners repair faulty tanks.
550 faulty septic tanks that have gone unresolved for over 2 years, and some even longer than that. And that's a real concern because half of those have significant issues, such as a pipe maybe discharging into a rural stream. And really that can't be allowed to continue.
Confirmation that progress is being made on proposed works for the community nursing unit in Ramelton has been welcomed by the new Vice Chair of the Regional Health Forum West. A strategy has been developed for the works, which involves the replacement of existing single rooms with new ensuite rooms. Councillor Kieran Brogan expects the works to start early next year.
I think it's positive that we're going to see some capital investment in the community nursing unit in Ramelton. I think it's long overdue and I'm happy with the response. And now, hopefully now in the third quarter of this year, we'll have some reports back in that to try and get on with the works that needs to be done and the investment there, because it's a nursing unit that has provided huge benefits to the area for many years, and I'm delighted now that we're going to see capital investment going on there. Hopefully we'll get that down the next number of months. Hopefully works could start maybe early next year then.
Finally, for weather, wet this morning with rain turning quite heavy in parts. Rain will clear though through the morning, brightening up with highest temperatures today of 16 or 17 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning. You're very welcome along to the 9 till Noon Show. It's 4 minutes past 9 on this Wednesday, the 28th of June 2023. How are you keeping? Good to have you on board. I hope you're all doing very well indeed. We have the lines open for you right now for you to comment on the topics we're discussing as the morning wears on, or if you want to raise your own issues. You know the story, don't you? 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text number, 086 60 25,000. Or give us a call on the number 07491 25,000. Now, in both instances, if you're calling from outside the Republic, and we have people listening and watching all over the place, please feel free to get involved in the conversation as well. 00353866025,000 is that WhatsApp or text number. And if you want to email, it's comments@highlandradio.com. Right, okay. Let's start the programme as we do every single morning with a look at what's making the newspapers today. We're starting with the locals today, but again, flabbergasted at the extent of coverage in the nationals of the RTE saga. Now, I'm not surprised when I say flabbergasted. It's just the actual extent of it, how many pages it covers. But anyway, we'll get to that in a moment, though I know, I suspect, that some of you perhaps maybe are getting a bit tired of that story, but we're not focusing greatly on it anyway. It just happens to be on the front of the papers. Inishowen's 9 county councillors shared a combined €367 in wages and expenses last year, benefiting from the first full year of a pay rise that increased their basic representative payment by almost 10,000. This is the Inishowen Independent. When elected in Donegal County Council, following the local elections in May 2019, councillors were entitled to a basic representative payment of just $17,382. However, following a government decision in 2021, the basic annual payment was increased to $27,109, linking a councillor's basic salary to the civil service post of assistant staff officer. So sorry to conflate stories here, but you're getting all of your 9 Inishowen County councillors for significantly less than you're getting Joe Duffy. Okay, so that, I mean, you could look at it that way. That's one way to look at it, okay? For a full year, they're all paid less than one person is being paid. That's not sour grapes, by the way. It's just an interesting couple of stories out at the same time. Right, the Donegal Post this morning, the chairman of the Donegal branch of the Irish Hotels Federation has written to local TDs on behalf of 55 Donegal hotels and guest houses to highlight growing concerns. Paul Diver penned the letter in response to government plans to increase consumer taxes, VAT on hospitality and tourism, at a time they claim people's personal finances are already under significant pressure due to the cost of living crisis. Now, I don't contest what Mr. Diver is saying. And I do have an awful lot of respect for local hotels and people in that industry, of course, and also given the fact that they employ lots of people. But there must be something going on with the prices they're charging to some extent too, when you see that, you know, over 1 million people are currently or are on the way to Dublin Airport. Everyone I know seems to be flying out of the country at the moment. Now, presumably they've looked at what's on offer in Ireland in terms of the weather and value for money, and they've decided they can go to Portugal or Spain or Lanzarote cheaper. But anyway, Mr. Diver states, I'm writing on behalf of Donegal Hotels and Guest Houses representing 50 local businesses to highlight our growing concern about plans in September to increase consumer taxes on Irish hospitality and tourism. So I'll ask the question directly out there, and there's a whole mixture of people listening. There are people in the industry, there's people that work there, there are people that have looked at the price of hotels. Do you believe that the 9% VAT rate, for example, for hospitality should be retained? What's your view on the hotel industry? Good and bad? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. The Inish Times tells us that the assessment of an application for an investigatory foreshore licence for a proposed wind farm off the coast of Inishowen has been paused indefinitely. Haven Offshore Array has submitted an application for a 5-year foreshore investigatory licence for a project containing a mixture of static and floating wind turbines in initial sites of more than 1,500 square kilometres, with the nearest point to the coast 20 kilometres from Malin Head. A geophysical survey for the project was carried out last year. Haven Offshore Array said the licence will allow the company to refine the site choice and carry out surveys to properly assess the viability of the project. Last month, the Department of Housing, Planning and Local Government paused all assessments for offshore renewable energy foreshore licence assessments that have not already gone to statutory consultation, which includes the licence for the Haven Offshore Array project. So that's indefinitely shelved. The Finn Valley Voice tells us that Finn Valley Councillor Martin Harley, the new Cahirlock of Donegal County Council, says he wants to work with the HSE to, in some capacity, to promote men's health. He wants men to start talking about health issues. Men are not inclined to talk about things until it's too late, he said. I encourage men to go to their GP if they think there is something wrong, either physically or mentally. Sometimes when men go to the GP, it's too late, he said. He was speaking after the election at Monday's afternoon annual general meeting at County House at Lifford. Congratulations to him on his appointment. So on to the Nationals. And as I say, you would genuinely struggle to find much news outside of the RTE story. Where do you start with it? RTE bosses, this is the Irish Independent, RTE bosses have failed to take the heat out of the Ryan Tubridy payment scandal, with a statement pointing most of the blame at former Director General Dee Forbes. Now, in a conversation with Deputy Thomas Pringle last week, a conversation with Pierce Doherty a couple of days ago, this all before we got the statement from RTE, this detailed statement. It was that, I put it to both that, people are sick in this day and age, and whether it's RTE, the HSE or whatever it might be, that there is zero accountability. And what happened yesterday, effectively, is that RTE released a 9-page statement that effectively said no one is to blame except Dee Forbes. Dee Forbes, who has now resigned from her position and is beyond the scope of any inquiry. She can't be compelled to be involved in anything. Now, there's no criminality suggested here, but in terms of sanction. So we have a situation here where we have a 9-page statement that effectively says the one person that knew what was going on, it wasn't even Ryan's fault, wasn't the executive, the boards, whoever you want to structure it. It was no one else's fault except Dee Forbes, and that is the one person that just happens now to have resigned. Now, in this country, I was under the impression that you had to, and I could be wrong, but that you had to give notice of your resignation. I think it's a minimum of a week, depending on how many years you've served. Now, it seems that minimum didn't apply to Miss Forbes. I'd be very interested to hear what she had to say at the Oireachtas committees later today and tomorrow, because really, to be honest with you, without her statements and without other people turning up, there's just going to be talking shops. Nothing's going to come off it. But why did she not have to give notice? And if she did have to give notice, who waived that so that she is beyond now the scope of the committee? She says she's not going to speak at them because she's sick, and she's not going to be compelled to do so because there's what's her name? That thing's ongoing at the moment too. This case is ongoing there. So that's a no. So as it stands, effectively, no one is going to be held account. Now, unless the political pressure builds and builds and builds, but anyway, who's to say? So their lengthy statement, which showed the broadcaster repeatedly caved into pay demands from Tubridy's agent, was met with alarm and astonishment in political circles. The credibilities of RTE's management claimed that only Ms Forbes could have known that publicly declared pay figures for the star were understated, is set to be a central line of questioning at an Oireachtas committee meeting today. So effectively what they'll say is, I'd love to answer your question, but that's the responsibility of Dee Forbes. That's effectively now how they've insulated themselves from any line of questioning. And anyway, members of the Oireachtas Media Committee will question RTE executives were unimpressed last night by the version of events presented amid widespread political disquiet over the contents of RTE's statement. One senior minister told the Irish Independent the broadcaster's latest account raised further questions. Dee Forbes did it, seems to be the mantra, but I'm not sure that cuts it, they added. And as I say, there's still a whole load of questions to be answered, and also Mr. Tubridy's still in line for $275,000 payments. It's really quite remarkable, and just a couple of things that jump out. And as I say, take the personalities out of it. This is just an organisation that we fund. Let's just view it like that, because I do understand some people would have affections for the likes of Ryan Tubridy and feel this is a witch hunt on him or something or other. But that's not my motivation, certainly. But they had this deal with Renault, and the way it was done was it did cost them, because they gave a €75,000 credit note. But not only that, Ryan Tubridy agreed as part of this deal through his agent to do 3 functions for them, for Renault. And RTE paid to host those functions in and around €45,000-50,000. So that's an extra €45,000-50,000. Renault didn't even have to pay for them. So why was RTE paying to host 3 Renault events that they had done this deal with Ryan Tubridy to get an extra 75,000? So that bumps it up to 120. And out of this barter account that they used the money, because it was paid, because they underwrit the 275,000, right? They had to pay it. So they paid it out of this barter account. But the way that account is set up, it actually cost them an additional 70,000 to pay it out of this account. So it's not just 150, it's 150 plus 45 plus 70. So to pay 150 to Ryan Tubridy, it cost over 300,000, which is really quite remarkable. But who's at fault? No one, only Dee Forbes. That's what they're saying. And I'm sure Miss Forbes is not too happy about it. They're saying it's no one else left in the organisation is to blame. It's only Dee Forbes, who has just left. And as I say, who accepted her resignation without the required notice, because that would leave her still at work and within the scope of the Oireachtas Committee. Again, it just is another publicly funded situation that just stinks to high heavens. Right, OK, the Irish Times now. Gardaí are treating a missing persons case in Donegal as a probable murder investigation following the discovery of a blood-splattered car in the Killybegs area. Now, a lot of you out there are probably wondering, well, I've heard this. This has happened. Why is that happening? Why is nothing being said? I can't really shed much light on that. Our policy, generally speaking here, when I say generally speaking, it's kind of strictly speaking, is to report official information only in these cases, not to speculate, not to presume, not to use sources on matters that are so serious as this. But we have still at this point, and no media organisation at this point has been given the information that anyone is missing officially. We haven't been told anyone is missing. We haven't been told officially by Gardaí that it's a murder investigation or whether it's a missing persons investigation. Their only reference they have made officially is an alleged assault. So everything else that you're reading is obviously sourced from somewhere or other. But that is why there's this gap in the information. And then, of course, 2 people were arrested, and then people probably presumed, well, this means that and that means the other. But those 2 people now have been released without charge, and I didn't see any reference of a file pending for the DPP. But again, we can't make it up. We can't quote unverified sources. There is no information coming from An Garda Síochána beyond what I've just mentioned. But just to read on here, Gardaí are treating a missing persons case in Donegal as a probable murder investigation following the discovery of a blood-splattered car in the Killybegs area. Again, that has not been officially confirmed. A man and a woman were released without charge last night following their arrest on Monday in a search involving the Irish Coast Guard, the Donegal Mountain Rescue Team and Gardaí is ongoing for a missing man. Again, that's not officially released information, though it is I'm not questioning it is reliable, but it's just not official. The search, which began on Monday, is centred on Slieve League, a tourist spot which is the setting for Europe's highest sea cliffs. Gardaí are trying to contact the missing man's family but are having difficulty in tracking them down. Gardaí are still trying to piece together the events leading up to the man going missing over the weekend. Their investigations are focusing on the car which had been found with bloodstains. The car first came to Garda attention after being involved in a road traffic collision. Okay, so as I say, as soon as we get official information, we shall bring it to you. Just looking on the inside of that paper as well here. Ireland's most senior public servants can look forward to pay rises after the government decided to set up a special review group to make recommendations on salaries for top civil servants, semi-state bosses, judges and other senior officials. The move follows recommendations made in a report which says the appointment system should be reformed and hiring processes should be completed more quickly. Minister for Public Expenditure, Pascal Donoghue, welcomed the report compiled by a panel chaired by Donal de Butler and said he examined each of its 38 recommendations. So good news, if you are a senior civil servant or a judge, you are in for a nice little bonus in your salary. Just reading this on the back of our conversation we had yesterday with Luke Ming-Flanagan, who for a long time, it's nothing new, has been advocating for the legalisation of cannabis. But let's see what our neighbours in Europe are doing. Let's go to France. Cannabis smokers in France will face on-the-spot fines of up to €2,500 in a bid to tackle drug-related gang violence. Police are being given 5,000 portable card machines to force people in possession of the drug who do not have cash to instantly pay a penalty starting at €150 for a first-time offence. French President Emmanuel Macron said that it was unacceptable that 65% of the 350,000 fines issued for cannabis possession since September 2020 had not been paid, as he outlined the new plans to clamp down on the dodgers. In an interview with La Provence, a newspaper published in the crime-hit city of Marseille, where 23 people have been killed in drug gang violence this year alone, the president said that decriminalising cannabis was not the solution. So they don't believe that decriminalising it, let alone legalising it, is the solution. But the police over there are going around with card machines to instantly deduct fines from people found to be smoking cannabis. Where are we now? Which story am I going to read from here? Yes, a healthcare worker, this is in the Irish Daily Star, a healthcare worker who liked and shared a video of an offensive song about murdered Michaela McAreevy has had a claim that she was unfairly sacked from her job dismissed. An industrial tribunal panel described the streaming of the video in an Orange Hall last year as a truly disgraceful event and ruled that the Southern Health and Social Care Trust was entitled to dismiss Rhonda Shields from her employment in 2022. There was another person, Andrew McDade, who streamed it also. There was another person that appealed their dismissal, and their appeal was rejected. The Mirror this morning tells us that Leo Varadkar's led Get Well Soon wishes to Sinn Féin leader who's in hospital recovering from an operation. Mary Lou McDonald said yesterday she's doing well and is looking forward to getting back to work soon. She tweeted, "Personal news, I had surgery on Friday and I'm now recovering well. I expect to be back in action in a number of weeks. A million thanks to all the incredible staff at Rotunda Hospital for your excellence, care and kindness. Onwards and upwards," she said. The Taoiseach was speaking during leaders' questions, and there's been quite a lot of goodwill on social media from other politicians of all backgrounds towards Mary Lou McDonald. And finally, Fiat has stopped making grey cars, saying they do not embody the joyful Italian way of life. But the car maker's move could backfire, as it's been the most popular colour for the past 5 years. Fiat chief executive Olivier Francois said, "Italy is joy, optimism, love, passion, life. What has grey got to do with all that? Nothing. The world doesn't need another grey car." I wonder how long it will take them to reverse that decision. Now, it depends what kind of a grey car they're talking about. There's quite a few of those. It's kind of like a matte grey. I wouldn't be a huge fan of it. I'm not sure how those cars will shift on the second-hand market, but anyway, each to their own. I think he'll end up reversing that decision. All the puns in the world intended there. Okay, that was a run-through of some of the stories making the headlines on the front pages today. Good morning to Breed, Charlie, another Charlie and Rosemary amongst those watching the show. Just to remind you that if you're at home or if it suits you, you can watch a live stream of the show every day, including today, of course, on our YouTube channel, Highland Radio Ireland. Your phone, laptop, tablet, smart TV or your Fire Stick. We're across Facebook, Highland Radio News and Sport and Highland Hub, and on our website you can just click watch live. Okay, and in fact you'll be able to see our next guest on the show coming up just after this quick commercial break.
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Ramelton from the 6th to the 10th of July. Save the date and gather your friends for an incredible lineup featuring Sharon Shannon, ABBA sensations and Jimmy Buckley.
You know that guy I've been seeing?
Yeah?
Turns out my sister's been seeing him too.
Oh, really?
And I heard he's been seeing Siobhan at number 56. And Declan.
Your brother?
Yep.
Specsavers opticians and audiologists own their stores, so your care is their business, which can make them rather popular.
I've got something to tell you. I've got half an hour with him this afternoon.
Specsavers, your care is our business.
Donegal Pro-Life are running sponsored buses to the Rally for Life in Dublin on Saturday, July 1st. To book your seat, contact Margaret on 089 24 69 599.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The time now is 25 minutes past 9. Now, you might remember a couple of months ago we covered an issue over the review of NowDoc services. There was some concerns from members of the public, concerns from staff, I think almost particularly. And Councillor Jerry McMonagle has asked a question in relation to this at a recent Health Forum meeting. And the question was a simple one. Can I have an update on where the review of the NowDoc services for Donegal is currently at? And Councillor McMonagle has kindly joined us to run through the answer. Good morning, Jerry. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning.
Right. Yeah, thanks for being with us. Now, it is a wordy answer. You've picked through it. What do you believe the words say?
Very little.
That was my suspicion.
I said that yesterday. It's just a holding position. If you remember, they said that these discussions would conclude around the end of February, beginning of March. So I thought it was timely to ask the question for an update. Unfortunately, the Chief Officer wasn't at the meeting yesterday. So I had a number of questions coming out of his answers. And basically what they're saying is that they're fully committed to supporting their staff who currently work at the NowDoc service, and that they're dealing and engaging with all the stakeholders, and that they're working in partnership with NowDoc and CareDoc to ensure that the public using a GP out of our service and the staff working are provided with the necessary supports to deliver the best care to their service users.
And they seem to be saying, and really, I suppose we'll know further on, Jerry, they're saying they're looking at where there might be any gaps in the operating model, and they're looking at how that operating model can be changed to best fill those gaps. So it doesn't really tell us anything as such. So what questions, and you've just put some of them there, but what key questions do you believe remain, or what would you like to see some clarity on at this point?
Well, they talk about trying to address the challenges that they're currently facing, and what I'm looking to establish is what are those challenges in relation to the service itself. And just from talking to members of the public, there seems to be sufficient GPs during the week, but at the weekend it's fairly stretched, and people are concerned about that. And from the staffing point of view, this relocation to Carlow for the triaging centre from Letterkenny, I mean, there's currently 25 nurses employed via the triage in Letterkenny, and they're concerned about their positions. If it goes to Carlow, what will happen to them? They have made a submission to the Nurses Union, have made a submission to the National Oversight Body, but as yet they're still in the dark, and they haven't been, other than being told it's ongoing, but they certainly haven't been given any further information. So the other question I asked yesterday was, when they said they're talking to all the relevant stakeholders, that have they been engaging with probably the major stakeholders, which are the service users? And again, I asked, was there a facility there that for the general public who use the service to make their feelings known? But once again, there was no one there who could answer that question. So there's a number of outstanding things, and elaborate on what the challenges are, what the hold up to making a decision. Why is it taking so long for the review to be completed? In relation to the number of GPs, will it be sufficient to meet the demand? And then a lot of, just from talking to the people who use the service, they invariably be referred to the emergency department. And then currently, and just recently, I've been hearing some complaints about the length of time from when they make their initial phone call, give their information, to getting a call back from the GP to give them a diagnosis, or, as I say, invariably they refer them to the emergency department. So those are the issues at the moment that I'm meeting and being told about. And I just wanted some clarity around that, but unfortunately it didn't come yesterday.
Yeah, okay. And did they give any timeline, Councillor, in terms of when maybe some of those questions might be answered, I beg your pardon, or when a decision might be made?
They said to me that I would be contacted as soon as possible, and they would ensure that the person dealing with it would be in contact with me quite soon.
Okay, well, we might leave it there then and come back to an update.
If I get any updates, sure, Greg, I might come back to you.
I appreciate it greatly. Thanks for that. Okay, I do indeed. Councillor Jerry McMonagle there. Maybe you work within the service and you can give us some further insight as to what's going on, or maybe you've accessed the service and maybe it's been a positive experience or otherwise. otherwise. Some comments here. Greg, where is all the self-interest going to stop? We have had scandals within the church, Garda, on Ball Planala, the banks, charities, insurance, HSE. It appears the only one not creaming the crop is the working man on the minimum wage, because even those on benefits are working the double. Then we wonder why this country is on its knees. And other wages in this country are the same in every industry. Look at managers in the HSE and the civil servants, what they are on. It's outrageous. In the charity industry, CEOs in some cases are paid ridiculous money. Just got home from Kos, had screenshot boarding pass scanner, couldn't read it. They had to manually input my name, flight number, etc. to get me through. Quite embarrassing and held people up. So I think really what we're saying then is that screenshotting your boarding pass or your access to a concert or whatever it might be is not foolproof. Okay. President Michael D. Higgins is on €900 a day plus a free house with free bills and free food. He's another one whose wages should be reduced, believes a caller.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Remelton from the 6th to the 10th of July, bringing you the super talented Sharon Shannon on Friday the 7th. See Lennon Festival Remelton on Facebook for ticket information.
Summer is here, and that's why SuperValue is making sure it's the summer of savings. Enjoy great offers like pick up 2 SuperValue Signature Taste Large Pizzas, 1 SuperValue Garlic Baguette 2-pack, and 1 SuperValue Coleslaw, all for €8. And money off vouchers every week on the app. For a summer of savings, it's got to be SuperValue.
Be prepared for training and match day with Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure, with a variety of mouthguards, shorts, socks and boots from O'Neill's, ATAC and Adidas. Exclusive Michael Murphy GAA gloves are available in 4 different styles. You'll find everything your team needs to succeed on match day at michaelmurphysports.ie.
Century Cinemas has launched the brand new premium experience, featuring 2 upgraded screens with luxury reclining seats, cosy couches and 4K laser projectors with 7.1 surround sound. Premium screens are now open, showing exciting new movies and also offering bar service on the weekend. Book your premium tickets at centurycinemas.ie now.
Okay, now, as we've been reporting... Sorry, I keep putting up the wrong microphone. We've just changed the system here a little bit. It will take me a day to get used to it. Well, as we've been reporting, Gardaí are treating a suspected assault in South Donegal as a possible murder. A series of searches have been carried out around Slieve League after reports of an incident last weekend. And that really is kind of all we have in terms of what the Gardaí officially releasing. They haven't really gone as far as the report has. I'll read what the Gardaí are saying just for absolute clarity. Gardaí in Ballyshannon continue to investigate an incident that occurred in the Slieve League Killybegs area between Saturday the 24th of June and Sunday the 25th. The 2 people arrested in connection with this investigation on Monday were released without charge last evening. Public access to Slieve League remains closed to facilitate this ongoing investigation. Investigating Gardaí continue to appeal to any person who may have information in relation to this incident to contact them. Now, I really fully understand the lack of information being released by Gardaí, but as I say, the media is speculating beyond that. Local to the area, Deputy Thomas Pringle joins us on the programme now. Fully conscious, Thomas, that really, you know, we don't know a great deal of information. But I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of conversation, a lot of speculation and concern, I suppose, in and around the area, because people perhaps don't actually officially know what's going on.
Well, I think there's a fair degree of understanding around the area that, you know, that the guards can't say anything and it can't be known what's actually happening, because, I mean, in fairness to everybody, it has to be properly investigated, and that you wouldn't want to do anything that would cause a problem at some stage in the future if charges are due to be pressed or whatever. You know, and I think that I mean, I'm in Dublin at the moment for the doll sitting this week, but before I left to go to Dublin, I mean, the general feeling around the town was that people were just they were shocked and they were concerned, but they weren't really wanting to say anything because they didn't want to. I mean, everybody knows the family involved and stuff like that, and it's for everything. it's an impact on everybody, the families of the people who may be accused of something, and the family of the deceased person as well. So there's an impact there, and everybody's very conscious of that and doesn't want to add to any of the burden that people have at this time.
And there also is an understanding that as part of this investigation, there is a search is ongoing, focused around the Slieve League area, and that is potentially a crime scene, and that's why access is being restricted.
Yeah, and that obviously is causing difficulties at the moment in terms of the tourist season and stuff like that. There, Slieve League is the biggest attraction probably in the county at this stage. But that has to be. Hopefully, the investigation can be completed in the next day or two there, and Slieve League will reopen to the public again. But that again has to run its course too, and I think it's vitally important that it does. That the guards gather up whatever on all information that they can in relation to that, and hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. But I think we have to let it run its course at the minute.
Okay, while I have you, and it's not in any way to distract from that serious issue that we've been just speaking about, obviously every newspaper is full of the stories it relates to RTE. We're covering it here. I find myself kind of trying to hold back a little bit to some extent because, people might think there's sour grapes going on here, but I can assure people we're not motivated in that regard. I'm certainly not.
Highland Radio would never have done anything like that, would they?
No, sour grapes, not at all. Not the money I'm on. But anyway, what's
all declared, Greg? That's the thing.
It is all declared. Don't you worry about that. For what it's worth, and just to reiterate, by the way, we don't get paid that kind of money. I would say one of our salaries would cover most of the salaries here. But what's your takeaway from what's going on? It was an interesting turn of events yesterday in that we had a 9-page statement to effectively throw D Forbes under the bus, really, and it's just. I think it was last week, and I mentioned this at the top of the programme, I think it was last week when we were talking about another scandal within the HSE that, once again, there's no accountability. And here, just less than a week ago, we had another exact example of what we were talking about. But what is your assessment as this story unfolds?
Yeah, I thought the statement yesterday, I read it last night from RTE, it really was just throwing D Forbes under the bus, and it's not surprising that she's the only one that has resigned in relation to this, so they felt that they can say that she's totally to blame for it. I don't believe that anybody, even the top manager in an organisation, does anything in a vacuum and can do something like that without other people being aware of it and knowing what's happening. And the one thing I would say is that there's an awful lot of people, and probably 99% of the people who work in an RTE are people who are working on an ordinary living wage and working wage, and they were told that they had to tighten their belts and everything like that there, but yet the senior management in RTE were going around and giving one presenter money through the back door, and that or seemingly money through the back door, alternative arrangements, and that's wrong, and I feel for the ordinary workers in RTE in relation to that.
Yeah, and I think some of them, I think the average wage there is €55,000, but you have to work for 12 years to get to that point, and this at the same time where there's a freeze on wages and regular pay. I think a runner on the Late Late Show or researcher starts off around about €33,000, so that's why we saw hundreds of staff, I would say, picketing outside various RTE locations yesterday.
And that's understandable, and because it impacts on everybody. And when RTE's name is dragged through the gutter, it's not that senior management are going to be looking at it. It impacts on all everybody who works for the organisation. Now, the Dáil Committee, I think the Dáil Committee on Media, and that there is meeting today at 12 o'clock to have some of the management team from RTE will be in. Sadly, I don't expect that there'll be anything significant.
What do you think draws a line under this? So what has to happen for things to move forward? Because, of course, there's a couple of things going on. Ryan Tubridy's due another couple of 75,000s over the next 2 years to 2025. We don't know really what his relationship with staff in RTE might be. We're not here to speculate about one individual's future, but that's just one part of it. But what do you think, especially as RTE constantly has the begging bowl out, and I think that's scuppered now, what draws a line under this, or how do we move forward on this? Because eventually we are going to have to.
Well, I think what would draw the line under it is that RTE have to fess up, and they have to admit that they did this. They have to admit that there was more people than just G Forbes was involved in it, and that's a bit too convenient that she was the only person to do anything about it. And by the way, she has actually resigned, so therefore problem solved, nothing to see here. I mean, if another organisation was doing that, RTE journalists would be jumping up and down saying this is a cover up and stuff like that. And that's. So we need to be sure that doesn't happen. I mean, RTE has a vital role to play as a public service organisation. It has that role to play, but it has to be clear cut. And I think as well, too, what we have to think about, and this will be something for the longer scale, is that, the politicians have forced RTE to become a commercially based organisation as well, and they depend on commercial funds for their viability, and that I think has led to a lot of this as well too, where the government funding was being cut, and they're relying on advertising and stuff like that. There was increasing all the time, and then this idea then that they had to pay their top presenters way above anything that's up and being poached.
Like I'd be really interested to see what would have happened if, when Ryan Tubridy's agent says, "Look, he's not taking this pay cut. We need this extra amount of money," and if they said no, what would have actually happened? But let me just ask you one final question, if that's okay. When you say that RTE has a vital role to play as a public service broadcaster, given the fact that we take 160 quid out of every household to fund that, what are they doing? What need are they servicing that the likes of News Talk and the independent radio stations aren't? Do you know that what separates them as being a vital service as you described them, compared to what independent stations and media outlets are doing? And that's a genuine question, because it's one I couldn't answer.
That's understandable. I think first of all, the risk is that if you have a privately owned station that's doing it, that can follow the lead of whoever the owner is, regardless of whatever station it is. Greg, I'm not saying that it's particular to News Talk or anything like that there, but that's the risk that's involved. So a public service broadcaster is supposed to be above that.
Okay, but the public service broadcaster is paid for by the government, and it's the government then decides if it gets. So a lot of people listening to this program might think then it's clear the RTE, the government is the RTE's paymaster, because their coverage is really quite generally favourable to the government. So again, in that context, where is the vital role in democracy that I heard from the health minister yesterday, and in public service broadcasting, if some people believe it actually really is a government mouthpiece?
Yeah, and that's the problem. And that's where you have to be very clear, and that RTE gets its funding regardless of whether they're seen as being favourable to the government or not, and that is a problem, and that's a risk that comes up quite a lot there, But aside even from news coverage then as well, that there is a lot of Irish language coverage and documentary programmes and stuff like that that are made and funded by RTE, and with the best will in the world, I don't think the private organisations, now maybe if they got the funding they might be able to make them, but with the best will in the world, they mightn't be commercially viable at private organisations.
I get you, and listen, even in the area of sport, and I'm speaking as a listener, not as a presenter, there's two big games this weekend that are pay-per-view. So again, if public, I would have thought a public service mandate would mean that we get to see our national sport for free, because we're paying for it already, but we don't. Half of the games are on pay-per-view. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, but I don't think it's RTE that's making them pay for.
Well, Dee Forbes is the head of GEA Go. I'm not sure if she stepped. I'm not sure if she stepped down from that position yet. But anyway,
I wasn't aware of that. I thought GEA Go was a GAA organization.
No. RTE and GEA are equal stakeholders in it, and Dee Forbes is RTE's rep on the GEA Go board. But anyway, listen. Thanks so much for your time, Thomas. I meandered a bit there, and I appreciate you going with me. Take care of yourself. Deputy Thomas Pringle there.
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Ramelton from the 6th to the 10th of July. Experience the incredible ABBA sensations on Saturday the 8th. For ticket information, see Lennon Festival Ramelton on Facebook.
GiveBlood.ie know we can count on you, our community of blood donors, to give blood and to choose to be there for others in their hour of need. blood donors from Ballyshannon should attend the clinic in Colóiste Columkill in Ballyshannon on Monday 26th of June. And donors from Donegal, Killybegs and Dunlow should attend the clinic in the Abbey Hotel in Donegal Town from Tuesday 27th to Thursday 29th. Making an appointment is recommended, so call 1-800 731 137 to book your time. Visit giveblood.ie to see eligibility and clinic details.
Welcome to the Spa at Orchids, one of Europe's largest spas at the Holyrood Hotel, Bundoran. Discover tranquility in our Japanese-themed garden, boasting 7 treatment rooms, seaweed baths, and a secret garden with an outside hot tub and sauna. Now, let me take you to the heart of Bundoran, where you'll find the Holyrood Hotel Spa and Leisure Centre. Don't miss out on our exclusive midweek hotel specials. More information at holyroodhotel.com.
Join me, Marty Friel, this and every Friday night from 8 for Rockin' Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7 Letterkenny. If you're celebrating a birthday or a work night out, Arena 7 Entertainment Complex has it all. Check out arena7.ie.
All right, Des, I'm really sorry for holding you. Thanks for being patient with me, Des. Good morning to you.
Hello there, Greg. How's it going?
I'm doing okay. Des, tell us your story in your own words. I'll not lead into it. I just want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I am a very private person, and I don't like to draw attention to myself, so it takes a lot for me to come on to the radio show to discuss this. That shows my desperation. I've been very unwell for quite some time, and I would probably have ME, and it has turned severe. And my GP has done as much as he can, and he has sent me for a referral to see a specialist who maybe be able to see in July. But I've been ill for a very long time, as I say before that, and my health has declined majorly. I never got a diagnosis in the past because it is near to impossible to get any kind of diagnosis or treatment. There's none available for ME. And I was in the position where I was looking after 2 elderly parents, and my father was very unwell. He had Alzheimer's and he had Parkinson's, and I was looking after him, and my health declined majorly, severely. And my sister was back from America, and she was shocked at the state of me, and she immediately brought me down to the doctor. And I was down in the waiting room for the doctor, and he came out to call me, and he came out and he was visibly shocked at the state of me. And I was sent up to the hospital, and I was kept in for a period of time, and they done tests, and they couldn't find anything. And as the nurse, one of the nurses in the ward, a senior nurse, she even said to me, "Are you sure you want to leave?" And but I had no choice. I had to leave. But my health was in such decline that I was back in casualty another 4 times over a period of 6 months, and they can do nothing for me. And I was in such desperate, bad shape that I never thought the statement would trip off my tongue, but I was in St. Connell's for 10 days because my health has deteriorated so dramatically that I need to be in some kind of care or something. And there's nothing available for people with ME. It's shocking the lack of care.
And just for listeners who may not be aware, ME, it's also called chronic fatigue syndrome. And
that's correct.
It's affecting your concentration. Are you able to get around, or how is it affecting your everyday life, Des?
It has taken my life away from me. Basically, I'm so bad that I have to obviously cook for myself. I have nobody to depend on. And when I get up, I start shaking, and I crash from any activity at all. It's a thing that's relevant to ME is a thing called post-exertional malaise, which is PEM, which means any activity that you do, it takes much more out of you than a normal person. And when you're severe, that could mean the smallest activity, and you're crashing then, and your body is, it's like you're kind of going into a kind of shock or whatever. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But basically my time is spent in bed. I as I say, I get up to feed myself, and that makes me worse. And then I go back to bed, and I'm just staring at the ceiling, and I have insomnia. Get confusion. I get shakes, as I say. I can't do anything. I get vertigo. I have food intolerances.
And are you having to deal with this all on your own, Des?
More or less. I have siblings, but they're in England, and one's in America, obviously.
Right, because as well as the ME, it sounds like you've been through, a very stressful period of time, as you say, with your parents and with your own failing health. It's an awful lot for you to deal with, Des.
Yes, it is. That's why I had developed severe ME, because I was doing far too much, and I hadn't got time to recover, and it destroyed my health completely. And the reason that I'm on is I want to highlight the lack of care and the lack of availability of anything. Like, I'm left to my own devices here, and to be quite honest, I don't see much of a future. That every day is hell, and I'm not joking.
Des, what can we do to try and help? I mean, what difference, say for instance, if you got the official diagnosis from a consultant, what difference might that make? Does that mean that you would start some sort of there'd be some further supports for you? Do you know what I mean? Like, would that be a help, for an example?
At this stage, I don't know what benefit it would be to me. It would be down in your medical file that you're suffering from this illness and whatnot. But as I say, I am not able to function at all as a normal human being. And
can I make a suggestion, Des? What I would do if I were what I would say if I was your brother, and I'm not sure if this is appropriate or if it's controversial or not, Des, but I would get you in the car and I'd drive you to casualty, and I wouldn't let you out of that hospital until such time as something was being done, some sort of a package was being put in place to support you, or some sort of a treatment plan was put in place. That's what I would do. I'd put you in the car and I'd take you to casualty, because that's where you need to be. Yeah, go ahead, Des. Go ahead, Des, please.
Greg, that has been done 5 times. I was up with my sister twice, and they look at you and they do the tests. They do, and they say that we can't find anything wrong with you, and then they say you can go home. That's the problem with ME, that they can't find anything at this stage, and it's when you get a diagnosis, that's a diagnosis of exclusion, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I'm difficulty thinking. I get very confused.
You're doing, Des, can I just say you're doing very, very well. Everything you've said so far has made absolute sense, and you're telling your story very well. So don't worry or be stressed about that.
But I understand what you're saying about getting your brother to do that. I have tried every avenue that I've done. I have went up to casualty, and I was kept in hospital on 2 occasions, and. As I say, they've done tests, and they've done a lot of tests, and they don't show anything. And I was that desperate then that I went into St. Connell's for 10 days, and then they say that they can't do anything, that you have to see your GP. So you're stuck between 2 stools, and there's nobody that can help or do anything for you. You're just kind of left to your own devices.
And you're losing weight, and your condition is worsening. You're losing weight, and sounds to me, Des, like you're losing hope as well too. And that's what I want us to. We'll endeavour to try and do what we can to try and move things along. What we can do, I don't know, Des, but I mean, as you say, you're a private person. This is the last type of a conversation in public you'd want to have.
Yes, well, it highlights the desperation of the situation. That I get confused. I'm very underweight, and I'm very unwell, and I'm more or less bedbound, as I say. I can't go out and shop for myself. I can't do. I can't function. I can't That's just the reality of severe ME.
Even at this point, home help would be a great advantage to you. A professional diagnosis. These are two things that I think too might give you a little bit of a lift as well, Des. You might not feel quite as isolated as you clearly do.
Oh, Greg, what I feel at this stage, what I would need is I would need to be put into care. That's what I feel as reality of the situation. That's how bad it is.
Okay. Well, Des, leave it with us, okay? And I want you to contact us again if anything changes for you. We'll make some inquiries. What that will do, I'm not quite sure, but maybe the right person is listening that can point us in the right direction. But stay as strong as you can, Des, and stay in touch with us, okay? And
thank you, Greg.
We'll do as much as we can. But I want you to know as well that you're not alone. You can call us at any stage. Do you get me?
Thanks, Greg.
All right, okay, and don't be afraid to fire off a message on Facebook or something if you need that. Okay, so I don't want you to feel you're not alone. We're here as much as we can be, and we'll make some inquiries to see if anything can be moved forward. But just to reiterate, I know you feel lonely, but you're not. We're listening to you, and we understand the situation, and we're backing you on this, Des.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you very much.
Stay strong. All right, thanks, Des, and we'll be in touch with Des again off air as well. As you can hear, a desperate situation for him. Right, okay. Let us get to a couple of comments just as we head now towards the news at 10 o'clock. And lots of you texting in, as you can imagine, to 086 60 25,000. We appreciate all the texts, as you know. TG Cahir is independent. No scandals coming from there. Our real national broadcaster, RTE, is just a wing of the government. Public service broadcasting is clearly propaganda. Sure, we don't need RTE anyway. It's mostly reruns. We certainly don't need it when we have the 9 till noon show on YouTube. She was the DG of RTE and would have been the one who sanctioned and signed it all off. Indeed, but even in small organisations, it's pretty bizarre that no one else, there's a lot of people there, no one else said, hold on a second, what's going on here? D. Forbes has took one for the team and left with a full hand, says the listener. Hi, Greg, we're fed up hearing from you what you do not earn that. Sorry. Well, Greg, we're fed up hearing from you that you do not earn that. Prove it. How do I prove it? I'll prove it to you individually if you just want to. I'm just on a normal wage here, like everyone else. Why should RTE decide not to report on the Donegal rally? They're there to report the news, not to decide what news to report. Well, there's editorial policies, I suppose. Separately, coming from the new dual carriageway into the Polestar roundabout, it used to have 2 lanes, now it's got 3, so 2 lanes of a car heading to the same exact point and it's going to cause an accident. I don't know, I think that's helpful. I think that sort of separates the traffic. It's only for the last 100 metres, and, you know, if you're turning right lane, if you're going straight mid lane, if you're turning left lane, I think the traffic at that point, it's filtering it and maybe keeping people in lane. But I take your point. Greg, why in Ireland do we need to show the year of the car and the registration? Surely this shouldn't matter or be anyone's business. I have cousins from America who thinks this is ridiculous. I never liked that either. But even, say, for instance, in northern plates, if you're in the know, I think you can tell from the letter what year the car is. But I would much prefer if the age of the car wasn't in the number plate, personally. What do you all think? Would you like to see the age of the car gone from the number plate? 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts to that number. Okay. That's another hour of the 9 till noon show in the bag. Stay right where you are. We'll be back with more after the news and the obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Ramelton from the 6th to the 10th of July, featuring the talented Jimmy Buckley live on Sunday the 9th. Tickets are just €10 and pay at the gate.
In the next 15 seconds, you're going to find out where is the best place in the Northwest to buy a bed or mattress. It's Restex Beds and Furniture Mountaintop, Letterkenny, where comfort meets style.
Jake's famous All-American Burgers has crossed the Atlantic and is now in Kelly's American Roadside Diner. Always tasty, always fresh, and so damn satisfying. Call in now for a taste of Southern hospitality at Kelly's American Roadside Diner.
Disney's The Lion King in Dublin. More to be seen than has ever been seen. Join Highland Radio on our trip on Thursday, 26th of October 2023 to see the award-winning Lion King the musical. Brought to you by Disney Theatrical Productions. Your trip includes luxury transfers, overnight stay at the 4-star City North Hotel Dublin on a bed and breakfast basis, and your ticket to the show. All this for just €219 per person sharing. Call 074 91 25,000 to book. A non-refundable deposit of €100 per person will hold your place. Single supplement applies. To see Disney's The Lion King in Dublin.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. As investigations continue today into an incident at Slieve League, it's believed Gardaí are treating it as a possible murder case. A major operation involving Gardaí, the Irish Coast Guard and the Donegal Mountain Rescue Team was launched on Monday. 2 people were arrested in connection with an alleged assault at Slieve League, but have since been released without charge. Donegal Deputy Thomas Pringle says people in the area are mindful of the serious nature of the events unfolding.
General feeling around the town was that people were just... they were shocked and they were concerned, but they weren't really wanting to say anything because they didn't want to. I mean, everybody knows the family involved and stuff like that, and it's, for everything, it's an impact on everybody. The families of the people who may be accused of something, and the family of the deceased person as well. You know, so there's an impact there, and everybody's very conscious of that and doesn't want to add to any of the burden that people have at this time.
RTE is still in covering mode, according to Donegal Deputy Pearse Doherty. He says nobody is satisfied with the statement issued by the state broadcaster yesterday, which said the former Director General D. Forbes was the only member of the Executive Board who had all the information to know Ryan Tubridy's earnings. This afternoon, TDs and Senators will question RTE representatives on the undisclosed payments at an Oireachtas Media Committee. Deputy Doherty says the Grant Thornton report states half of the Executive Board had knowledge of a second contract.
I don't think anybody is satisfied with what has been released yesterday by RTE. It seems that they are still in a covering mode. It was very clear that they were trying to say this is what we didn't know as opposed to what we did know. You know, over half of the Executive Board had knowledge of a second contract with Ryan Tubridy.
The Chief Officer for the Community Healthcare Organisation covering Donegal says they are fully committed to supporting staff working at the NowDoc service in Letterkenny. However, there has been no update on the future of the service. Serious concerns were raised earlier this year over plans to relocate it to Carlow as part of a hybrid model with CareDoc. The HSE says they are continuing to engage with relevant stakeholders. Councillor Jerry McMonigal, a member of the Regional Health Forum West, says clarity is needed.
There's a number of outstanding things. Elaborate on what the challenges are, what the hold up to making a decision, why is it taking so long for the review to be completed, in relation to the number of GPs, will it be sufficient to meet the demand? And then a lot of, just from talking to the people who use the service, they invariably be referred to the emergency department. I've been hearing some complaints about the length of time from when they make their initial phone call to getting a call back from the GP.
New laws are being developed to ensure consumers can still pay with cash. The Department of Finance is looking at ways to maintain access to cash payments. A national payments strategy is due to be published next year and follows the retail banking review which was carried out last year. Consumer columnist with the Irish Independent, Sinead Ryan, says it's important to preserve the use of cash in society.
It's the way lots of people still do business, particularly those on a very, very tight budget, on low incomes, and indeed lots of older people who may not have got their heads around smartphones and online banking and all of that thing. So I think it is important. I think it's a pity that we have to legislate for it, to be perfectly honest. But increasingly you'll have seen signs popping up in restaurants, in bars, and card only.
Confirmation that progress is being made on proposed works for the community nursing unit in Ramelton has been welcomed by the new Vice Chair of the Regional Health Forum West. A strategy has been developed for the works, which involves the replacement of existing single rooms with new ensuite rooms. Councillor Ciarán Brogan expects the works to start early next year.
I think it's positive that we're going to see some capital investment in the community nursing unit in Ramelton. I think it's long overdue and I'm happy with the response. And now hopefully now in the third quarter of this year, we'll have some reports back in that to try and get on with the works that needs to be done and the investment there, because it's a nursing unit that has provided huge benefits to the area for many years, and I'm delighted now that we're going to see capital investment going in there. Hopefully we'll get that down the next number of months. Hopefully works could start maybe early next year then.
Weather now rain clearing this morning with the day brightening up. Highest temperatures of 16 or 17 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notice says for this Wednesday morning, June the 20th. The death has taken place of Roger Rory Conley, 5 Clunlee, Connybur Road, Lifford, and formerly of Kinloch, County Leitrim, reposing at his home. Funeral leaving his home tomorrow morning at 10:25 for Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Murlock, Lifford at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers placed to the Donegal Hospice, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. Family time please from 10 o'clock until 11 o'clock. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Anthony Levy, Moyleview, Milford, formerly Tully Mountain, Ramelton. Funeral Mass this morning at 11 o'clock at St Peter's Church, Milford. Burial afterwards in Tully Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. The death has taken place of Evelyn Mullen of Portnablad, Dunfanaghy, County Donegal. Her remains are reposing at her late residence. Funeral Mass in Holy Cross Church, Dunfanaghy tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. Burial afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. Mass can be viewed live on mcmmedia.tv. Family time from 11 o'clock until 10 o'clock. Family flowers only. Donations in lieu if desired to the Lake House Nursing Home, care of any family member or James Harkin, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of John Dawson, Piper's Field, Bridgetown, Glen Carrigart. Removal from the Eternal Light Chapel of Rest at Mountaintop Letterkenny this afternoon, going to Cornwall Parish Church for service at 2 o'clock. Cremation will take place in Lakelands Crematorium Cavan tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock. Donations in lieu of flowers please to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member. And the death has taken place of Dan Bradley, Stragill Buncrana, formerly from Shandrum, Dumfries. Dan's remains are reposing at his late residence. Removal from there tomorrow morning at 10:15, going to St Mary's Church, Cockhill for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass with burial in the adjoining cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
See the whole picture with ultra wide on iPhone 11. Join 3 today and get iPhone 11 for just $9.99 with 3 bill pay. Enjoy top class speeds in Ireland's fastest 5G network. Offer ends soon. Visit in store or at 3.ie. 3 for a better connected life. €40 per month price plan. Subject to 24-month minimum term and annual price increase. Terms and conditions apply. Based on analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q3 to Q4 2022.
Cutting through the spin. The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Okay, good morning to you. You're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Thank you very much for being with us today. Now, on to some of your comments here. RTE&D phobes, another Groundhog Day, just like John Delaney and the FAI back in 2019. All sounds like the Angela Kearns woman a few years ago, untouchable. That's still an ongoing situation. Greg, Ryan Tubridy, Joe Duffy and the rest of the top RTE earners are each earning more than Joe Biden, the US president. This is quite remarkable. About Ryan Tubridy, why aren't the revenue commissioners jumping on this? I'd have thought he'd be all over RTE and Tubridy at this stage. Well, there's no question of any tax avoidance or anything like that there. He's an independent contractor and he is a company. Which is an advantage when you're a high earner. And that company, its incomes and expenditures and tax liabilities are all public information as far as I'm aware. So it's how he received the money, not that he in any way avoided tax or anything. There's absolutely zero suggestion of that. A caller says, I hear that politicians are afraid they'll not get all the answers into the RTE debacle. Let remind those concerned politicians that as an Irish citizen, I have never got answers into any wrongdoing by Oireachtas members. It's a system of circling the wagons and nothing to see here, which has prevailed for decades. The anger of the Irish people over this incident is not really about money or indeed Ryan Tubridy. It's more to do with the fact that this is perceived as another stroke pulled by people who live in a different world to those living in tents or hotels, who are struggling to repay crippling mortgages or whose homes are crumbling before their eyes, and our concerned politicians couldn't give a toss about them. We've had the Taoiseach leaking confidential information to an unauthorised source. We had TDs forgetting how many properties they owned. What happened? Absolutely nothing. Apologies and lessons will be learned is the only outcome. The only outcome of this inquiry will be just the same. I just wonder how much more corruption can the Irish people take? I would say loads. I would say the Irish people, we have a capacity to take loads and loads of these stories and then we move on and get over it. But some good points there. Well made. Thank you very much indeed. Another here, I worked in the civil service. If someone came under suspicion for wrongdoing, they would not be allowed to resign until after any inquiry. I don't understand why Ms Forbes was allowed to head for the hills, probably in a top-of-the-range Renault. I also wonder why RTE had to make personal appearances. I also wonder why Ryan Tubridy had to make personal appearances for Renault promotions and never wondered why he wasn't getting any pay for these appearances. An old man once said to me, when you're apologising, you're losing. I think Ryan Tubridy's apology was not his wisest decision. Well, there's no... I'm sure that he knew that he had a commitment to Renault for the €75,000. Because RTE then paid for those events. So he must have said, well, why am I doing this? I mean, the questions would have been pretty obvious, asked and answered, you would imagine. Greg, if D. Forbes' wages and pensions were stopped and Tubridy's wages stopped, they would soon talk. Hi, Greg. RTE were carrying out their dirty laundry, clean slate prior to new DG coming in. What the D4 bubble didn't expect was the backlash. How can a runner in RTE expect to get on the property ladder in Dublin and watch this? Now RTE shall come after streaming and local radio licence fees. Well, we get no, just by the way, just to be really, really clear on this, we get no licence fee funding here at all. There is some contribution, I think, to documentaries. You can get some funding for that. But there's no... Highland Radio and other independent radio stations are supported solely by advertising revenue. So there's no licence fee money supporting at all, just to be clear. This could have also gone away for Tubridy by coming straight out and paying the 340k and the future 70k's back to staff in more need. Now he shall have to leave. Remember, what some of the bubble had previously been on 900k a year with no competition. Madness. That comes in from Oisin. And just before we take the bingo numbers here, I was on the Letterkenny Dublin 32 bus route yesterday at 6:15 a.m. I have lost my bag. It's a black sports bag, and what I'm assuming happened is someone took it by mistake. I was left with another sports bag, which I left at the Omagh bus station for anyone looking. Anyone who took my bag accidentally, you might get in touch, please, as it has personal stuff inside. So were you on the Letterkenny Dublin 32 bus route yesterday morning early on? Did you accidentally pick up a black sports bag? Its owner very keen to get it back. They have left your bag at Omagh bus station, if indeed it is a straight swap there.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Wednesday, the 28th of June. You're playing on the blue sheet. The reference number is S8. It's game number 26. The numbers are 6, 8, 33, 42, 67, 89, 15, 49, 9, and finally 34. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €2.8 million. Play responsibly in store, in app, or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Wake up, wake up.
The Easy Living Furniture Summer Sale is on with up to 50% off all mattresses, pillows and mattress protectors, with a huge selection of mattresses that are exclusive to Easy Living Furniture and 0% interest-free finance available. Now is the perfect time to gift yourself the mattress of your dreams. Speak to one of our sleep specialists today. Summer sale now on with all mattresses reduced in Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
Welcome to the Spa at Orchids, one of Europe's largest spas at the Holyrood Hotel, Bundoran. Discover tranquility in our Japanese-themed garden, boasting 7 treatment rooms, seaweed baths, and a secret garden with an outside hot tub and sauna. Now, let me take you to the heart of Bundoran, where you'll find the Holyrood Hotel Spa and Leisure Centre. Don't miss out on our exclusive midweek hotel specials. More information at holyroodhotel.com.
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Ramelton from the 6th to the 10th of July. Save the date and gather your friends for an incredible lineup featuring Sharon Shannon, ABBA sensations and Jimmy Buckley.
Okay, lots of you getting back in touch with us, having listened to Des just before the 10 o'clock news. Some of your comments here, my God, my heart is breaking for that man. Letterkenny's not the place for him. He needs to be sent to Dublin, but how do we get him there? Another, Des needs to get to the rehab unit in Letterkenny to be built up and physio before going out to independent living again. If you have any advice on the pathway for that, please get in touch with us. Greg, that man should contact his public health nurse. Unfortunately, if he's not over 65, there's little available in this country, but definitely start with his public health nurse. Another, hi Greg, has Des ever thought of functional medical doctor? There's a small few in Ireland, but definitely think it would be a great option for him. Medical doctors only get a certain distance. I had an undiagnosed autoimmune condition that almost destroyed my life and only got better through online advice from functional medicine. I pray Des gets better and gets his life back. And indeed, if it were me as well, I'd also be looking at potentially a condition such as Lyme disease as well. Listening to the show about ME, I have it since 2009. I spent months in bed, had lots of tests, was told I have ME and no treatment. I had treatment for the vertigo. My family are wonderful with me. I can skip conversations and just say what's in my head. There is no help for it, not even self-help. I'm lucky with having a very patient husband that's extremely tolerant, and the family laugh with me, not at me, with the silly things I do and say. I'm not bad now, so I'm very lucky. I've been where that man is. It takes years to get where I am with it now. Thank you for all of those comments and messages of support for Des. Right, Dr. Joe Kelly, he's a historian, of course, regular guest on the show. Back on the programme this morning. Good morning, Joe. How are you keeping?
Mighty Greg is Loch Bashchita. Good morning to you all there in Highland Radio. How are you?
It's good to have you with us. Thank you very much indeed. Right, you've been opining about the ongoing scandal at RTE and another couple of instances as well, Joe. What's your take?
Well, the real problem is, and it's Tubridy and everything else, is what is going on with Irish society? Where is the sense of right and wrong gone? It seems to be greed, self-interest, lies, entitlement. That has become the norm, especially for those in power. There's scandal and story after story after story, and the cycle is going to go on and going to go on and going to go on. And where is the consciousness of right and wrong among the ordinary man and woman of Ireland being represented? If we just look just this week alone, so you have Ryan Tubridy, the golden boy of RTE, playing with our gold, the taxpayers' gold. Let's be very clear about this. You look at the head or the second in command of the board planning law this week has been charged with 9 counts of not declaring properly what was going on in his interests in property. For example, he had a ransom strip and he had other properties that weren't declared. You had Niall Collins, the TD in Limerick, Patrick's Well, whose wife bought land, and while he was on the council, nothing came of that. You had Damien English, who had to resign because he didn't declare honestly a planning application for rural housing. It seems to be acceptable.
Just on the Damien English one then, or was it Niall Collins, one of the two of them, Sippo then found really he probably didn't need to resign at all.
Well, I don't know. This is the problem. Where is accountability? For example, the man in the board planner, Paul Hyde, I think is his name, the maximum he can get is 5,000 fine or 6 months But look, this isn't really about individual issues. It's about the overall idea that this country is run by two different moralities. One is that the people in authority, and not all. I mean, fortunately, we have good TDs in our county that there are no corruptions against them. I mean, in fairness, whether we disagree with them politically one way or the other, they seem to be honest and sincere and genuine in their efforts. But there seems to be at the centre of our government and at RTE and our institutions a certain level of corruption that's acceptable. And there's no accountability, and it's cycle after cycle after cycle.
And it's a case you ride it out. That's what you do. You ride it out. In other words, like the thought would be now, if we can get to the summer recess of the Dáil, this RTE thing goes away. If we reveal information late on a Friday, it'll be buried by the time Monday comes. I feel for the good people working in RTE who were out in their numbers yesterday. I feel for the good people of Umbó Planala who were all tarnished by the actions of certain individuals, particularly in the HSC. I really feel for the staff, the hard-working, underpaid staff within the HSC who are seeing scandal after scandal. And, of course, we all are aware of the good people in the hospital who feel tarnished by the criticism. The Gardaí, the Army, all good people who are having reputational damage because the people at the top can do whatever they like and get away with whatever they like, it seems. And then we as a society, you asked, why do we tolerate it? Someone else asked, how much more of this will take? We will take it in perpetuity until such time as we have someone to stand behind that says enough is enough.
Well, I mean, it's the way I look at it, maybe historically, have we replaced the landlords of yesterday with new kind of authoritarian landlords that the laws are for everybody else but not us? And there should be an oath taken. It's in our constitution. Our president has to take it, where you have to act consciously for the betterment of the well-being of the people. There should be an oath taken by every public servant and everybody in authority on state boards to the people of Ireland. And if they are found guilty of any wrongdoing, that oath should be casted up to them, and there should be consequences. It's not good enough anymore to be appointed by wink and nod and stuff like that. We need those people to take an oath to the people and the Constitution of Ireland. And maybe that's something that can begin to end this cycle of feeling of entitlement. I mean, again, down in Cork there, another story with Cork, the board panel was Cork. Again, this week it was found out that there are 60 apartments in the students' accommodation in Cork that have been given over to IPAS. This is the Department of Equality in Children. There's not much equality for the people and the students going to Cork this year. Where are they going to get accommodation? Who's going to look after them? There just seems to be a veneer of truth told. But when you hear this press statement now, I begin to ask myself, is this a lie? Is this their version of the truth? Or what are they trying to tell us? In other words, what are they not telling us? And again, this is where independent media is terribly important, because you have a better chance of hearing the truth. So look, there's a lot of questions.
Do you know how crazy this world has got, Joe? Yesterday, I don't know the exact. I have the details, but Helen McEntee, the Minister for Justice, you're probably aware of this. I don't know if you are or not. Went into court and in front of an unnamed judge. We don't know who that judge is. Got a ruling which means that every single person, every citizen in this country, that the phone companies have to retain all of their data for a full year. So every little bit of activity on your mobile phone is retained for access by the government in this country. I'll get the article up and read it properly, or try and dig it out. It's hard to find at the moment. But that happened yesterday. In any other situation, this would just be a huge, huge story. But such is what's going on. Like a government minister went in and got permission from a judge who was nameless to retain all of our data, all of it, for a full 12 months. To do with it what we don't know. But I mean, anyway, I'm not expecting you to comment on that, because I might be throwing that on you. But crazy.
No, stay with Helen McEntee. She's also proposing a law, and I want to be very careful and sensitive how I say this. Victims, alleged victims of sexual abuse or of rape or whatever, do not have to undergo cross-examination in the new law she proposes. Now, I can understand the necessity for that, But at the same time, it means that somebody being accused of something has not the right to interrogate or ask the person accusing them of what they're being accused of. I know there has to be sensitivity and understanding, but I think that's a very dangerous law. And victims can be protected in other ways. But she's making a blanket proposal that will become law. So somebody will be able to accuse someone of something, but won't be cross-examined. Now, I can understand the necessity of that in certain cases where it has been horrific and the mental torture and what it might bring up. But everybody has a right to counter what's been said to them. That's the system of law in this country. And she's now tampering with that as a Minister of Justice. This is the new wokeism that's going on. There's no seemingly place anymore for the truth. And the question is, where are we as a nation, as a people, the consciousness of Ireland? Are we really saying that it's okay to be corrupt, that's what we come to expect from high places? And sure, that it'll blow over tomorrow and it'll be something else. And
yes, but you see, Joe, in fairness to the people, we the people, okay, there is how you just have to accept it, because at the end of the day, that's probably what people feel, because we're dealing with all our everyday crises, our health issues, our mortgage issues, our defective concrete issues, our children's health and well-being issues, right? We can't take on the system. So what we do is we sit in the kitchen, we huff and puff about it, then we watch Coronation Street. And I'm not actually criticising people for doing that. That's what I do. I'm talking about myself here, right? So there is no light at the end of the tunnel, and the light at the end of the tunnel looks like a train, right? So that's why I talked about having someone that you could get behind. And what happens is if someone sees genuinely someone who seems like in an opposition to the government, they might throw in a few other issues that they're not comfortable aligning themselves with, right? Okay, so it would need to be someone that say, right, we're going to get rid of corruption. We're going to have a root and branch reform of everything. But sure, how would you get past the top civil servants to do that anyway? They have just been okayed for a massive pay rise. So, where do you start? That's why people just keep the head down, have a wee moan, but sure, nothing you can do about it.
And that I think you've hit the nail on the head. And I think that's what the people in authority and in power and I'm in government, and I don't want, please, to be attacking individual politicians. I'm on about the authority. That's what they know. It's like a hamster wheel, and the poor hamster's spinning around the wheel all the time. And what they're doing is making our wheel bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're having to put round a bigger wheel, but we don't realise that the wheel has been made bigger all the time, and we're going to die from exhaustion. For example, in the last year, we've had 8 interest increases. Yet we're proposing to put 441 billion of European monies into Ukraine. Where's the money coming from for the Ukraine? Not that I'm saying they shouldn't get it, but then they can put up 8 interest increases on the ordinary mortgage payer of Europe, of Ireland. Yeah,
but the problem, Joe, listen, I'm not an economist, but the problem is the reason they're increasing mortgage interest rates is because there's quite a lot of people really quite well off in this country. They're trying to take money out of the economy. So they're not putting interest rates up necessarily to fund what's happening in the Ukraine. The problem is they're trying to say, right, okay, we don't want anyone to get any more pay increases. We need to tax people more, and we need to increase interest rates. There's 142 billion euro in household savings in this country. There are quite a lot of people well off, though there are quite a lot of people under press. So instead of trying to maybe even out that money and have a society whereby there's some level of equality, you tax and interest rate people out of existence. That's what they're trying to do. And they make no bones about it. They keep the foot on the person because that's how they drive down inflation, allegedly.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree, but it's not about so much keeping down inflation. It's about keeping people down sufficiently under pressure that they haven't time to look left and right and complain because they're struggling to survive, be it with concrete tax, be it with mortgage, be it with increasing household products to buy for shopping, etc., that they have the masses under so much pressure that they haven't time to keep us looking left or right. And then they throw an oil epidemic in the middle on top of that and threaten us with another epidemic and blame the Ukraine for the oil crisis. And they have issue after issue coming at us non-stop. We need to take a breath. We need to stand back and say, hold on a minute here. We are not to be abused and used like this. And the people have to start awakening to what's going on and stop taking it from authority or from the media that this is what the real story is. The real story we know, and we're not being told the truth. And the question
I think I would prefer if your argument was a little bit nuanced, because I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think chucking everything in there that you've chucked in, I think obviously, I think sometimes, hey, don't waste a good crisis to keep the people down. But I know what you're saying, and I have my own thoughts on it, right? So, I mean, you could be sitting anywhere chatting, having this conversation. You get me? I'm not here sort of speaking as I'm speaking as a person just like you are. I think some of it, is definitely there. Fear is a great control, definitely is. And there's just no doubt about that's being used. But that's being used by all sides. You know, we're being scared into disagreeing with the government because our children are going to be taken off us or abused or something. Do you know what I mean? Fear is how people nowadays try and get their point across rather than sort of articulating good points backed up by decent facts. I'm not accusing you of that, of course, not for a second.
But I think that's what's the intention, and this is where I see as the real problem, is people in power are severing the truth. They're separating people from their families, from their culture, from their faith, from their history, from our roots. And that's what they want to do. And, you know, what happens then is like, the movies, the Westerns, and you have the tumbleweed blowing across the screen. People are being blown here and there and everywhere because we're not rooted. We're not able to say no. We're not able to say we're not accepting this because we're being blown from one crisis into another crisis. And as I said, like the hamster, we're so busy and the wheel is being made bigger and bigger. And we're having to push this wheel around, be it with family, childcare, mortgages. And we're just getting exhausted.
But would your Ireland not look like it looked different, but there would be controls, but they'd just be coming from different places. Like, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you mentioned religion there. Perhaps you would like to see a stronger role for church in society. I don't know if you would or you wouldn't. Or perhaps you'd like to see, a roll back on some of the the legislation that's been changed lately that gives certain people more freedom over their own health. You know what I mean? Maybe would you like to see us go to be a little bit more conservative? And if so, that's just control in a different way, Joe, from a different group of individuals.
No, well, I hear what you're saying, and no, that's not what I mean by that. Faith is a moral compass across all religions. Faith gives you an understanding of what's right and what's wrong. And look, me and you might disagree about what's right and wrong, but at least we're talking about what's right and wrong. And Gabriel Byrne once, he was on the Late Show and he was being interviewed, and he was back doing a film in Ireland. And Gay asked him, you're a Catholic, but you don't practice. And he says, yeah. But he says, he says, you send your kids to the Jesuit school while you're filming here in Ireland. He says, why did you send them to a Catholic school? And the question was very powerful. And he said very simply, well, he says, I'm not a practicing Catholic, but you know what? I know if I send my children to that Catholic school, they'll be asked the right questions for life. In other words, that they will go out of school thinking the right way to ask the right questions. And I see religion as asking the right questions. It's not necessarily about control. It's about challenging every individual. This is right or this is wrong. And let's discuss it. And so it creates a moral sense of right and wrong. We need to have some kind of compass. But at the moment, there is no compass. Yeah. And whatever is the latest woke, and this is what I'm saying, like the tumbleweed blown across.
When you say woke, what do you mean by woke? Like, when you say about woke culture, what are you getting at there, Joe?
That it's the rootless, R-O-O-T-L-E-E-S, the rootless. There is no connection, not grounded, and it blows around from place to place. Whatever's in today, it'll be in something else tomorrow, and it'll be something else the next day. We are bound in our communities. We are rooted in our communities. We have a sense of place, of what's right and wrong, of tradition, of family. All that comes from our rootedness in communities. And we get a sense of who we are and what we're about and our nationhood in our communities, in our families. And for me, I think the woke philosophy is to cut all that, cut our history, cut our culture, cut our faith, cut our family, and have us blow around with whatever the latest thing is. And look, things have to change.
Yeah. But look, I think we're going through a period of almost defining ourselves going forward. It's a little bit like these. It's a little bit like these meetings that were being held to discuss our. Effectively, people thought it was discussions over neutrality, but what it allowed people to do was people who it gave people actually the majority who want us to be neutral and not to join NATO a voice. So in other words, it was, I don't know, some might say counterintuitive or productive. Also, what we're seeing now is the woke culture that you talk of is, and the pushback to that is creating a debate. And I think somewhere in the middle of wokeness and conservatism, if those are the opposites, we will find the path for humanity for the next generation or so. No,
what you're saying resonates with me, and I've often thought, a president or a government, a phrase that they should have for their campaign is "finding our way again." And we talk about history, Greg. We were a great nation once, and we still can be that great nation. And for me, I think, you talk about religion, or you talk about, what directs us, what's our compass. It's very simple. If you look into the old FINA motto, which Patrick Pearse used and which I use myself personally, and it was a three-phrased Irish phrase, Neartan ar lavav, Glanan ar Krieg, Onrigan ar Jangab. Strength in our hands, honesty in our hearts, and cleanliness on our tongues. If as a nation we just adhere to that old philosophy of the warriors of the FINA of ancient Ireland, that we had strength in our hands, honesty in our hearts, and cleanliness on our tongues, that would direct our nation in a wonderful way. And we need to try to find that way again. But unfortunately, we have lost our way because of certain, and I just say certain people in authority have a sense that lies, entitlement, dishonesty, whatever you want goes. Yeah. No, it doesn't.
Do you know?
There needs to be somewhere for people to express their discontent. Yeah. And maybe I'm one of those people.
No, well, you see, the funny thing is this, and this is just, again, a personal view, is if I believe that outside of people that vote along party lines, right, they'll just go out and vote for doing that. I actually think almost the strongest voice, and it's the wrong way to describe it, but the most important figure at election time for me is the people that don't bother voting at all, the 40 or 50%. Because it is they, I think, that we're talking about here. It's not that they've got something on. It's not that they don't. It's just that they don't see the point. It's like they see everyone as the same cheeks as the one bum. What you know what I mean? And I think that figure, that a huge proportion of the population that choose not to get involved in the democratic process. I think that's a really important cohort of people, because I think those are the ones that are just like, stuff it. What's the point in this country?
You're correct there, because when the booths close on election day, the existing status quo, all they need to know is that the turnout has been somewhere at 40 and late 50%, and they're happy because they know that there's a chance of surviving. But if it goes beyond 60%, they know there's trouble ahead. You are 100% right. If the turnout goes beyond 60%, then there will be a change to the system, the status quo. And we see that, for example, in America, and I don't want to get into the Trump-Biden debate, but the massive turnout of voters in America that were galvanized by the Trump and by the Hillary Clinton, and then later by Biden, it galvanized people. And I think that moment will come in Ireland. Ireland will be galvanised. Someone will come along.
Well, it was Boris Johnson in Britain, and it was Donald Trump in America, that they perhaps gave a voice or a motivation to people that felt left behind, or what's going on in this country.
Well, maybe they're not the best example.
No, but my point is that I think that is why they were so successful. I mean, it might be a different type of person that maybe is not quite as flamboyant or has such a checkered past or whatever it might be. But I think it is they that spoke to those people that go, you know what, he's right. He's right about what I'm going through. He's understood. He knows it. Now, Boris was able to blame Europe for everything. It was a simple message: keep the immigrants out, and as it turns out, that never happened. And the same happened; it worked in America. But anyway, Joe, listen, come here. In the last 30 seconds, fix it. If we were a computer, it would be great if we could sort of switch it back off and on again. Reset the router.
we have to find a way to stop this cycle, and we will find a way. I think that if people eventually get to a point saying, look, we've had enough of this. This is not acceptable. I mean, when the golden boy of RTE is found playing with our gold, I mean, that's pretty, you don't get any higher than that. And his fall from grace in the last week, it'll have to make us think about what is going on and what we are being told. And people need to start questioning from now on what's happening. And can I just say one thing? In history times, people, when they were wealthy, they were buried in the churches. The wealthy people could afford, and they were buried under the boards of the churches in medieval times. The poor people were buried out in the outskirts of the church and far away from the graveyard. And after a few months, people go into the church and they get a smell. And they'd say, what's that smell? And they say, oh, that's the stinking rich. The smell of the dead bodies coming up through the boards of the church where they'd been buried. Well, what we have at the moment is not everybody, but we have stinking politicians, we have stinking people in authority, and people are smelling that stink. And we have to start.
What a metaphor! All right, stay there for a quick second. Let's bring Liam in. Liam,
how are you doing,
Joe?
Greg?
I think you have other things on, Joe. I'll let you go. Right? Thank you very much for that, Liam. You crack on. Go ahead.
I just sent on a text.
Yeah, we
Greg,
invited you on to talk about it. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, simply put, anybody that the government consistently says that the tax in this country is paid, the substantial amount of it is paid by the highest earners. And Ryan Tubridy is a perfect example, and I'm not picking on Ryan. Simply put, if you're getting paid in excess of $150,000 in this country, at the minute, you're then in a position where you can actually go and pay someone to minimise or completely negate your tax liability. As has now come out in Highland in RTE, Ryan isn't actually an employee; he's a subcontractor. He's getting paid through a limited company. Does anybody really believe when the government says that the most tax is paid by the highest earners? I'd have to say I cannot thank Dr. Joe enough for coming on, and yourself for actually hitting on this point about the moral compass in this country at the moment, Greg. We have completely lost all sense of where we're going, and I'd have to say the country is crying out for someone. I would love to get Dr. Joe's contact details and send him something and see if there's any way that whether it be a social media group or some sort of a forum can be set up whereby the ordinary people, as they do on your radio station, Greg, and ring in and air their grievances or whatever, but just to call out what is going on and raising their concerns around. Like,
Can I put something to you? Liam, before I'll let you continue your point, something to you. You mentioned, the more money you have, the better you can avoid sort of your liabilities legally. Okay, you can employ someone to do.
It's I'm also, not saying it's illegal.
No, I get that, but also what it reminds me of is that, Liam, if I don't pay my mortgage, I probably have about 5 or 6 months before my house is taken from me. My credit rating is destroyed. I would continue to owe that money. I'd have no house. But if I owe a bank $9 million. I can pay them 65 grand and write off over 8 million. It seems like do you know? I think that's all part of the same thing. The more money you have, or the more debt you have, the biggest chance that you are, the less you're liable for anything.
That's absolutely the way it appears to be, Greg. And we don't seem to have any way. We elect our public rep. I'm extremely passionate about the Micah situation, and we elect our public representatives, and you can see that we don't appear to be getting proper representation of those homeowners. They consistently tell us lies around whether it's 10% or you're getting 100% redress. It's just absolutely shocking,
Yeah. All right, Liam. Listen, strong points, well made. I appreciate you getting involved in the conversation.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Remelton from the 6th to the 10th of July, bringing you the super talented Sharon Shannon on Friday the 7th. See Lennon Festival Remelton on Facebook for ticket information.
At On Post, we believe in giving you more power over how you bank. That's why AIB and Bank of Ireland customers can now lodge and withdraw money at any of our 900 post offices across Ireland 6 days a week. That's right, your bank is in your post office for personal and business banking alike, meaning you can bank wherever you live or work. Visit your local post office or onpost.com/everydaybanking. On Post, your money for your world. Allied Irish Banks plc and Bank of Ireland are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Wake up, wake up. The Easy Living Furniture Summer Sale is on with up to 50% off all mattresses, pillows and mattress protectors, with a huge selection of mattresses that are exclusive to Easy Living Furniture and 0% interest-free finance available. Now is the perfect time to gift yourself the mattress of your dreams. Speak to one of our sleep specialists today. Summer sale now on with all mattresses reduced in Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park. Get 20% off M&S school uniforms, including weather-resistant trousers.
We're braving the outdoors!
And stain-resistant school shirts.
We're creating my next masterpiece.
M&S school uniforms with prices locked for 3 years since 2021. Available in-store and online at marksandSpencer.ie now. 20% off all school uniforms. Offer starts 27th of June. Subject to availability. T's and C's apply.
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Remelton from the 6th to the 10th of July. Experience the incredible ABBA sensations on Saturday the 8th. For ticket information, see Lennon Festival Remelton on Facebook.
At Manor Motors Opel, we're half-full type of people, which is how we come up with the Opel 50/50 finance offer. Choose from the Opel Crossland, Corsa or Mokka. Select your flexible payment option, pair it with 3 years free servicing and meet your new other half. Discover more about Opel's 50/50 offer at the Opel Open Road event. See manormotors.ie for details. Finance is provided by way of a consumer hire purchase agreement by Bank of Ireland Finance. Lending criteria and conditions apply over 18s only. Ownership remains with Bank of Ireland until the final payment is made. Bank of Ireland trading as of Bank of Ireland Finance is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Foyleside, at the centre of more for your euro, with great value gifts. So it's worth making the journey wherever you live. With convenient parking, late nights and all your favourite brands, you're better off shopping at Foyleside. See foyleside.co.uk.
Disney's The Lion King in Dublin. More to be seen than has ever been seen. Join Highland Radio on our trip on Thursday, 26th of October 2023 to see the award-winning Lion King the musical. Brought to you by Disney Theatrical Productions. Your trip includes luxury transfers, overnight stay at the 4-star City North Hotel Dublin on a bed and breakfast basis, and your ticket to the show. All this for just €219 per person sharing. Call 074 91 25,000 to book. A non-refundable deposit of €100 per person will hold your place. Single supplement applies. To see Disney's The Lion King in Dublin.
Okay, as you know on this programme, we keep you across everything as much as we can. And thanks to Amber Barrett, I think I can say, Ireland is going to be taking part in the World Cup. And its squad, the country's squad, has been announced. Our sports editor, Oisín Kelly's just got his hands on it, so we're still working through it. 1, 2, 3. I'm working out the new mics here. Hello?
Hi, Greg. I think you've the wrong one.
Right.
You see, you've actually that is originally
mic in the wrong place.
Yeah, because you move things about for your cameras, so you do.
Anyway, we're here. Okay, so any surprises in the squad?
There is a few surprises, but the main thing from our point of view is there's 2 Donegal girls going down under in the form of Amber Barrett and Ciara Grant. Now, I didn't doubt for a minute that Amber Barrett would not be going, because how could you leave at home the girl that basically scored the goal to make history for the Republic of Ireland ladies, first time ever going to a World Cup, and she played well in the recent friendly as well against Zambia, where she scored 2 goals. She hasn't scored in a while, but she got 2 against Zambia, and Ciara Grant also featured that day as well and got a bit of game time. It doesn't happen too often when both Amber and Ciara are playing together, but Vera Pauw has included both girls in their squad, which is fantastic for Donegal, and both girls thoroughly deserving off their place, Greg.
We had a third Donegal player involved in the squad that hasn't made the...
Yeah, Aaron McLaughlin. There was actually two more. Aaron McLaughlin was involved in the squad recently, but it was more to give Aaron sort of experience of being involved in a top level group. Aaron's from and is showing very, very talented football. There's no doubt of Ireland are going to be going to World Cups in years to come. Aaron will be part of the...
Our time will come.
Yeah, our time will come. Unfortunately, Roma McLaughlin, things just haven't worked out for Rome over the course of the last number of years. She was in America and then she came back over closer to home, and she moved actually to one of the Danish sides looking to try to get a bit of game time and cement a place in the World Cup squad, but she wasn't involved in the recent panels and for the friendlies. So disappointing for Roma, who's been around the Ireland setup for quite a number of years and came back into it, and over the last 6 months or so it hasn't worked out for, unfortunately. But it's an environment that you're involved in that is very, very competitive. So it is, and obviously with a number of players now playing top level football across the water in England and elsewhere, it was always going to be it's going to be a big achievement for a player to be part of this 23.
Yeah, in management terms, you have to keep an eye on the future too. There's a conveyor belt, and some of the players that will be featuring for Ireland in this competition won't feature in the next, and that's where then Aaron and other players start coming into
started coming in. There's a few surprises sprung. Aoife Mannion, Megan Campbell and Leanne Kiernan are not included. Now there was hopes that Campbell and Mannion would be fit for the World Cup. Mannion obviously plays her football with Manchester United, but she only got a brace off on her knee on Monday. So the match sharpness wouldn't be there. The fitness is not there, so they didn't want to take a chance with her. And Campbell hasn't really been involved since April time, and she's been struggling with Liverpool, and likewise Kiernan as well has had an ankle injury and just not fully fit, because you really do need to be on your game when you're going to the World Cup. But the squad is now out, and there's disappointment for a number of players, which it's a hard pill to swallow. Not been included, but for the other girls, they'll be buzzing at the moment, so they will. And there's a big media day tomorrow. We understand it's done in the format of like a Super Bowl. So all the players are there, and it's a conveyor belt of the media. So this is all going to kick off now. They've a friendly coming up against France at the Tallaght Stadium next
Dublin,
week.
I take it, is it?
It's going to be in Dublin, yeah. They're not going to come too far north with it anyway.
It's a bit of a shame too, because a lot of people in different areas would want to hear from their local girls.
But there's no doubt you'll be hearing from the local girls now in the next couple of days.
We have our way. Amber Barrett, one of 4 strikers. Is that a low number of strikers?
I thought so when I seen it first, Greg. I thought so. You think you would need to get 5, but like when you look at what's in the midfield, like obviously.
Amber, actually, if I'm not mistaken, Amber's been playing in a more defensive role for Standard League now. As I say, I don't know.
Standard League, She'd had a.
Just because the Germans.
It's Liège, isn't it?
It is, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm a non-conformist.
She's had different roles with them, so she has. But for the Republic of Ireland, she'll obviously be playing. She'll be playing up top, and maybe she's starting to find form again for Ireland. We've seen it with Zambia. Fingers crossed that she can do it in the World Cup. But if you look at the midfielders, it's packed with midfielder. I think Payne as well can actually, who's one of the defenders, can play in a forward role. So. Even though there's 4 named, they're not going to be short of scoring outlets, Greg.
Yeah, and in terms of the competition,
yes.
When does it start?
It starts on July 20th when the girls are going to kicking off their campaign, and they're taking on the co-host Australia, and there's 2 other group games to come.
There's going to be some match with the Irish population and Australia playing the host nations.
I was actually chatting to a guy this morning that's going to Australia now towards the end of August, going out for a year. He was on here earlier this morning with the post, so he was Ryan. So listen, there's so many people from Donegal and from Ireland who are in Australia.
Shocking.
So there is, and like they're still leaving and they're playing loads as we speak, so Greg. But from an Irish point of view, especially the Irish that are in Sydney,
it's brilliant.
It's going to be class.
What
for them.
is our expectations? Where are we at?
It's a good question, Greg.
Yeah.
It's a very good question. You would like to. I think when you always looked at the men in World Cups, like if you were getting out of your group, it was seen as a huge achievement. So, can Ireland get out of the group? It would be a massive achievement if they can get out of there. what it would do for women's football in this country. Like, it's excelled over the last couple of years, Greg, and to top it off now, going to a World Cup, and if they can put on a performance in the World Cup, and if they can get out of the group stages, it would be huge for the group, but for the actual game in this country and the way that women's soccer is developing, or football. Kenny Harkin heard me calling it soccer. He says there's only one football game, but the way it has developed, you see now the way England, what they're trying to do with it, they're trying to push it on. There's a lot more money involved in it, so there is.
But I watched. This sounds like an awful thing to say, but like I watched the European Championships.
Yeah,
and I thought it was excellent.
Yeah.
Like, watched lots of games, and I think the standard. I think the standard has come up significantly. But a big tournament kicks it on massively. Like,
it does.
All right, so that's what we'll have for the summer to watch. All right, slim pickings at the moment. You couldn't pay me to watch cricket.
There's not a lot happening at the moment, Greg. So there's not now, but we'll get a lift from next month with the Irish girls.
And we've got a local connection, which whatever local station wants, we've got.
You remember, look at the World Cups that the likes of Packie Boner and Shea Given and all these boys were involved, and now we've got 2 Donegal girls and a first ever Ireland squad going to a World Cup. It's just a pity it's so far away, Greg. That mean you couldn't go.
I think if the truth be told, if it was in Sligo, we'd struggle to get the clearance to go. You might, but I certainly wouldn't. All right, Osh, thanks so very much, Greg. Indeed. That's Oisín Kelly, our sports editor. He and the team, of course, will bring you all the build up to the World Cup and all the local angles and all that kind of stuff. So we thank Oisín Kelly for that. Right, back with more after this quick break.
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Ramelton from the 6th to the 10th of July, featuring the talented Jimmy Buckley live on Sunday the 9th. Tickets are just €10 and pay at the gate.
I'm going into a Zoom meeting. Did you turn off the Xbox?
Yep.
What about Netflix?
It's off.
Dad's tablet?
It's turned off too.
NBI is delivering our high-speed fibre broadband network to over 560,000 premises across Ireland. So you can stream, download, watch, work and play online all at the same time. So now the only thing you have to remember to turn off is the immersion.
Are you trying to heat the whole town?
Find out more at nbi.ie. NBI, building a limitless Ireland, supported by the Government of Ireland.
Buying or moving home can be a strange mixture of excitement and stress. So the last thing you need is worrying about conveyancing. Time to call McElhenney and Associates. They'll move that property transaction along swiftly, make sure everything's in order, and prevent any nasty surprises. Residential, commercial, leasing, or voluntary transfer. Call today on 074 917 5989 or find us online. We'll do the paperwork, you do the wallpaper. McElhenney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. How can we help?
Okay, we're inundated in a really positive way with comments coming in. Hi, Greg. Joe Kelly is amazing. He's speaking every word of truth. This country is slowly going down the drain. The government is corrupt and uncaring. Crisis after crisis, and they turn a blind eye. The Irish people are being ignored. The people at the top are getting pay increases every year, where the ordinary people are abandoned. People need to wake up. That man is speaking every word of truth, which wish there was more like him. Our country, our culture, they're trying to destroy. Another listener says, Joe Kelly, there is no accountability in this country. Never was. No one cares. Another here, Greg Tuberty says there's a cheque for everyone in the audience. Thanks, Eddie. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? RTE debacle is bad, but not the most important thing going on in Ireland at present. Time all politicians have at least something to agree on. People affected by the current cost of living, hospital waiting lists, defective blocks, farmers and fishermen losing their livelihoods. The list goes on and on. Are we not considered or helped? Ryan Tuberty's taking one for his Fianna Fáil buddies. Well, let me tell you, the way I view it is that this is a symptom of all the problems that you talked of as well. Yes, it's not the most important thing. Yes, it's a big deal at the moment. But if you think what's going on in the hospitals, where's the accountability there? Where is the sense that, someone, if a job's not done correctly, can be held accountable for it? The head of the HSE, is he likely to get the run if things don't improve? No. As it relates to the defective concrete blocks crisis, the people of Donegal know fine well that this scheme is not going to help as many people as it should. But what will happen? Nothing. It won't, unless there's a change of government and a new government follows through in commitments. Farmers and fishermen, we know fine rightly what's happening. They're being legislated out of business. That's how many of them feel. I'm not saying that. That's how they feel. But really, they come on the radio and they go in the newspapers and talk about it. But what happens? Nothing. it's a decision has been made, and you can huff and puff, but that's the way it's going to be. And I actually think this whole RTE controversy, forget the name RTE, forget the name Ryan Tubridy, just think of it public service. It's public. You're paying for it. You're obliged to pay for it or face major fines. You know, people are having their say, people are upset, but what will come of it? Nothing. So they're all the same. It's all the same. So I don't think it is a distraction, or at least it shouldn't be allowed to be one. The only thing consistent in this country is the fact that money talks, says this listener. Our government over the years only ever react to money. I fear the people affected by defective blocks. Nothing will happen until each and every one of those people stop paying their mortgages. Again, that plays right into the hands of the banks and the state, because they become defaulters. They could have their properties taken from them for what they're worth, and their credit rating would be destroyed. Any hope they would have is gone. But anyway, I take your point, and I'm not contradicting you. They go on to say, this is unrealistic, I know, but if the banks aren't getting the money for these derelict homes, the government will soon act. Equally with RTE as a group, we should all refuse to pay the TV licence. The only way to affect this government is money, unfortunately. About time someone spoke out about this. Dr. Kelly's spot on. Keep the people down at all costs. Another, hi, Greg. Bad money for ruining this country. Last one before the news. Greg, he is right. Hi, Greg, he is right. The light at the end of the tunnel. Yourselves, the likes of Joe Kelly, getting the information out the last couple of years. Information was stifled. Nobody was talking or got talking. The information has to be put out daily. The same way they give is doing to RTE. The government keep pushing the corruption of the government. The people will eventually get the courage to make the change. People forget they have the power, says that listener there.
Cutting through the spin. The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it is 11 o'clock, still a busy hour on the way. Stay right where you are, but let's get a news update now and say good morning once again to Michaela Clark.
Very good morning. As investigations continue today into an incident at Slieve League, it's believed Gardaí are treating it as a possible murder case. A major operation involving Gardaí, the Irish Coast Guard and the Donegal Mountain Rescue Team was launched on Monday. 2 people were arrested in connection with an alleged assault at Slieve League, but have since been released without charge. RTE is still in covering mode, according to Donegal Deputy Pearse Doherty. He says nobody is satisfied with the statement issued by the state broadcaster yesterday, which said the former Director General D. Forbes was the only member of the Executive Board who had all the information to know Ryan Tubridy's earnings. This afternoon, TDs and Senators will question RTE representatives on the undisclosed payments at an Oireachtas Media Committee. The Chief Officer for the Community Healthcare Organisation covering Donegal says they are fully committed to supporting staff working at the NIDOC service in Letterkenny. However, there has been no update on the future of the service. Serious concerns were raised earlier this year over plans to relocate it to Carlow as part of a hybrid model with CareDoc. The HSE says they are continuing to engage with relevant stakeholders. The DUP leader says work is already going on in the background for the next Stormont executive. However, he is denying that means it's just a matter of time before power sharing is restored. The party's boycott of the executive has been ongoing since February 2022. 169 Donegal women underwent an abortion last year. According to Department of Health statistics, there has been a 127% increase in the number of abortions carried out in Ireland since the abortion referendum. 8,156 abortions were carried out across the country in 2022. And the Lochs Agency has appealed for vigilance to the potential presence of Pacific pink salmon in the Foyle catchment area. In 2017, 2019 and 2021, the non-native fish species unexpectedly appeared in unprecedented numbers in multiple river systems in Ireland. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Okay, Michaela, thank you very much for that.
See the whole picture with ultra-wide on iPhone 11. Join 3 today and get iPhone 11 for just $9.99 with 3 bill pay. Enjoy top-class speeds in Ireland's fastest 5G network. Offer ends soon. Visit in store or at 3.ie. 3 for a better connected life. €40 per month price plan. Subject to 24-month minimum term and annual price increase. Terms and conditions apply. Based on analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q3 to Q4 2022.
Okay, it's time for our Wellness Wednesday feature, and today we're going to talk about heart failure in Ireland and living with the chronic disease. Joining us, Dr. Angie Brown, consultant cardiologist and medical director with the Irish Heart Foundation. Thanks, Angie, for joining us.
Good morning, Greg.
And we'll also speak momentarily to Pauline O'Shea, who's living with heart failure for over a decade now. Pauline, good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, thanks for joining us. Dr. Angie, I might talk with you if that's okay first. When we talk about heart failure, I think people think heart failure might be a stroke or a heart attack, but obviously it's much broader than that. So give us a better understanding of what we mean when we talk of heart failure.
So really what heart failure means, and we're trying not to talk so much about failure because that's very scary for people, that heart insufficiency. So basically what it means is the heart pumping function isn't working as well. It can't pump blood around the body and provide oxygen to all the organs as efficiently as a normal heart would. So the heart has been damaged in some way, and it can be damaged by lots of different things. So if you have a long history of high blood pressure, if you've had problems with your arteries, blockage in the arteries and heart attacks or other lack of blood supply to the heart, diabetics have an increased risk. Infections can cause a myocarditis, causing inflammation in the heart. And then some congenital diseases, rhythm diseases, valve diseases, drugs and toxins can all cause problems with the heart. So lots of things can cause this problem with heart pumping function. And when you have impaired pumping function, what this causes for patients is that they get very breathless, they have profound fatigue, they find it very difficult to do normal day-to-day activities. They may have swelling in the ankles, they may not be able to lie flat at night and wake up breathless and need to sleep propped up with pillows. So lots of symptoms are associated with this lack of proper pumping of the heart.
And Dr. Brown, if we get everything right in terms of, a speedy diagnosis, the correct care and the correct aftercare, what is the prognosis? How manageable is it? What kind of a life, if I say we got everything right, could a person expect to lead?
So there are obviously lots of different degrees of heart failure, from mild to severe. So it will depend a little bit on the underlying cause and how soon that you get it. For instance, if someone's having a heart attack and they get to hospital very quickly, you might reduce the amount of damage that is done, so someone could have a very good prognosis. But if someone has a congenital defect in one of the things that helps you pump one of the muscles in the heart, this is something that is a chronic disease that you have to live with. We do have lots of excellent medications now that will improve people's mortality and morbidity. So the medicines do certainly help people live longer and feel better, improve the quality of life. And we have devices that can go into the heart to try and prevent rhythm disturbances. But this is a chronic disease. It has high mortality rates. The mortality rates, if you're diagnosed with significant heart failure, around 36% over 5 years. So this is higher than lots of other cancers and things. So it really does have a high mortality rate. We are getting much better in treating it and managing it, but it's a major thing for people to have to live with the effects of heart failure, as I'm sure we will hear from Pauline.
Yeah, for sure. And before I bring Pauline in, just a couple of other statistics then. In terms of age demographics, are there particular groups of people that are more likely to be diagnosed with heart failure or heart inefficiency, I think you might have called it?
Yeah. So, well, as I said, lots of different causes of heart failure. It becomes more common as you get older, but we know from some estimates from the HSC that actually there's over 32,000 people suffering from heart failure who are less than 65 years of age. So I think it's important to remember that it affects all age groups, and actually it's very common. We estimate it affects about 2% of the Irish population. That's nearly 100,000 people are living with heart failure in Ireland. There's about 10,000 new cases every year. So it's actually very common, and the prevalence is increasing, so the numbers are increasing. So we really do need a national registry so we have a better and more accurate idea of how many people are suffering from heart failure, so we can plan services properly and provide for these patients.
Yeah, it's really quite remarkable that that's absent, because how could you know the full extent of a problem or plan for it if you don't actually have a proper audit of the amount of people that it affects?
Absolutely, yeah. And the impact is so profound, as we'll hear from.
Yeah, well, let's do that right now, Doctor. Thank you very much for that. Stay where you are. Pauline O'Shea, you've lived now with this condition for 11 years. And I suppose to some extent, I don't know how, outwardly, people would not know that you are living with this chronic condition, Pauline.
Yes, indeed. So, yes, I am 11 years, and I would say to anybody listening to the radio this morning who has a diagnosis of heart failure, the term itself is terrifying. So I would just say, first of all, we'd love a rebranding of that, but that aside, years are possible too. I know we talk about a third of people sort of within a 5-year period is a mortality rate, but at the end of the day, there are more people surviving. Therapies have got better and medications have got better. And I suppose I'm an example of that. I'm 11 years on. And so I'd like to give anybody listening a little bit of hope on that front.
And and I think that's really valuable, Pauline. So do you mind me asking what age you were when you were diagnosed, and what led to that diagnosis? How was your health impacted, if that's okay?
Yep. So I was 38, and my situation really was I had just had my third baby, and I had an issue called SCAD. It was where an artery in my heart tore. But unfortunately, I was misdiagnosed as having a virus. So I was sent home. And, I suppose I was readmitted. And again, nobody could spot SCAD because you need to have a particular cardiac test, an angiogram to see it, and that wasn't conducted. So as a result, I ended up having 3 heart attacks, and I ended up going into cardiac arrest. The problem was that all those heart attacks and a cardiac arrest deprived my heart of oxygen. So while the artery was eventually repaired through a bypass, the oxygen deprivation had left, as I was told, part of my heart dead. And that was really, really terrifying because, as I say, I just had my third baby. I was 38. It was a time of life and newness. And this diagnosis, I had no concept other than the term suggested to me that my heart was failing, rather than as the term is kind of meant to describe, it's just not functioning as well. And so it was absolutely horrendous. And I have to say, while I could understand medically what they were telling me, it was the implications for the rest of my life that were the devastation. Because I thought, how am I going to be a mother? How am I going to function? Am I going to function? And what do I expect? I didn't know at that time. I was told in a hospital bed, and I
Okay, we seem to have lost that. No, you're back there now. Sorry, I beg your pardon, Pauline. The line dropped out. So you were told in a hospital bed. Just pick it up from there, please, if you don't mind.
Oh, sorry. Told in a hospital bed, and I said I looked across the ward and I saw the bathrooms, and I remember thinking, could me going from this bed over to there be the end? Mm-hmm. I really had no idea what to expect. So I understood medically what had happened, but I just could not grasp what it meant for my life. And the years after that, that was the biggest struggle for me, trying to adapt this condition and understand how I was going to live a life and be a mother and do all those normal things for my stage of life.
Yeah, well, there's a lot for you to work through there, that stuff that you kind of have control over. But in terms of support, be it financial support, you mentioned, obviously you went from a 2-income family to one. You faced all the bills and what have you, but also on top of that, medical costs. And Was there enough support, or do you get enough support through your recovery and beginning, the next, a very different kind of life, I suppose, to some extent? What is the follow-up like in terms of, the next 5, the next 10 years?
Okay, well, I will honestly say, unfortunately, there were no supports. And, this is part of the problem, because when you walk out the hospital doors, that's the first day of the rest of your life, really. And there was no support. So economically, I had been running my own business. I was not able to continue with that. So yes, we went from a 2-income household to 1 income. On top of that, we had my husband was trying to come home to relieve me, because my energy, as a result of heart failure and everything I'd been through, I was very, very energy deprived. So our income dropped drastically. And at that time, unfortunately, if you were self-employed, you weren't entitled to anything. You weren't entitled to medical cards. You weren't entitled to anything. So there were no supports. I survived financially because somehow I had the presence of mind 10 years earlier to take out an income protection policy.
Oh,
that is what helped us sustain ourselves. But not everybody will have done that. But it was an absolute nightmare financially. It was psychologically. I couldn't move from A to B in my own home without wondering if this would set off. I had a defibrillator installed, so it was a question of how much can I do in any given day? Will walking over to put on the kettle, will doing anything cause this?
And how long, Pauline, did it take? How long did it take to sort of work through that and to be able to trust what you could and couldn't do? Or maybe it's still, maybe it's ever present. But how long did it take to whereby you said, well, you know what, I can't answer if walking to the bathroom is going to kill me, but I have to walk to the bathroom. Did you have to work through it that way?
Yeah. It's the suck it and see type approach. That's what I had to do. And that was, you had to have, a degree of bravery with every attempt. So, yes, I also went to lots of counselling, which, again, that's very expensive. So it was really trying to figure out how to be able to afford that. I met a lovely lady who sort of helped, said to me that I could pay when I could afford it, but not everybody has that, opportunity either. So it was a mixture of professional help and just trying to put one foot in front of the other and take, I suppose, chances in the hope that I was going to be okay. But can I just say that the Irish Heart Foundation now, and this is for any, again, of the patients that might be listening today, they offer 6 free counselling sessions. So for anybody who is in this boat now, there is counselling available to you. There is information on economic supports available to you all through the Irish Heart Foundation. And it's really fantastic to see how that has come on, because I wish I had that back in the day when it was my beginning,
and I suppose you're coming back to a house with children in it and a partner, and to some extent you're counselling them whilst you're probably needing counselling yourself, trying to make sure everyone feels that everything's going to be okay. I wonder, Pauline, if you don't mind me asking, and maybe it's individual, I speak to people through features like this who've suffered a heart attack or particularly stroke, and it can have emotional impacts on them in terms of depression or is that the same with heart failure? Do you have to deal with that too?
Well, 100%. I mean, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and I didn't even know what that meant. I thought it was that I was, would be reliving the experience. But really what it was that when you've been through something very traumatic and it's a life or death situation, your brain is always going to be functioning at a level of trying to appraise everything from there on in that scale of life or death. And it means really in day-to-day life that your anxiety levels are very high. And when somebody is suggesting anything, the overwhelm hits very quickly. And that is very difficult in family life. My 3 kids, apart from the physicality of trying to manage being a mom, and I needed so much help from my own parents, and they were amazing to me. But the emotional side was difficult, as you say. There was a kind of a trying to present the best image to them so that they weren't frightened. But, really inside, feeling absolutely terrified. And now they're a bit older and I can talk to them about when mom gets, kind of anxious. Because nowadays my teenagers would say, chill out, mom. But I would say, hang on now, I know that might seem like an overreaction to you, but remember, my brain is always going to have the residual firefighter.
It's always going to try and protect you. It's going to say, the brain almost wants to survive itself, and it's saying, hold on, you Pauline, you can't do that because this might happen, and you have to sort of process that and say, listen, brain, I know what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? It's a funny...
right, and that's why we need professional help in many respects, because I would never have understood that was what my brain was doing in future anxious moments. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it took somebody explaining that to me, which has been hugely beneficial. And that's why our patients, I mean, remember, you're living with something that sounds like you're going to die, right, pretty quickly. That's the first thing, the problem with the term. And then the implications in your life, and particularly if you have a defibrillator installed in your body, that raises alarm bells for your brain,
Exactly, and it's saying, hold on, I want you lying down in bed, not doing anything, because then I'll survive. That's what the brain's telling you. And also, too, because of the type of condition, it's like they say the anticipation of something is worse than the event itself, but you're constantly, every second, you could potentially be saying, is the next second the day that, this defib kicks in? Stay there, Pauline, because I know both of you are very busy. I just want to go back to Dr. Angie Brown for a second. In terms of people can get this problem with their heart for many different reasons. I presume much or some of it, Angie, is preventable. Is it the usual lifestyle advice, dietary advice, exercise that we can best try? As I say, some people, it can be hereditary or for other reasons, but to best try and prevent heart failure.
Exactly, you're absolutely right. Some of the causes of heart failure are preventable. So, for instance, high blood pressure, which is a very common condition, and the only way you know you have high blood pressure is to get your blood pressure checked. So it's very important that everyone gets their blood pressure checked, and if you have high blood pressure, that it's treated and you keep managing it, because it can go higher or lower as you get older. So keep getting it checked and make sure that the blood pressure is well controlled. So that's one risk factor that is easy to treat. Obviously, things like gaining weight, having sleep apnea, these are all things that are harder to treat, but by having a healthy diet and healthy lifestyle, that's going to improve those risk factors. And coronary disease is another cause of having heart problems. So again, the healthy diet, the exercise, stopping smoking, and trying to get your cholesterol checked and keep an eye on your blood. All of those things will reduce your risk of developing heart failure in the future. So that is the good news. And I think the other thing to say, just to mirror what Pauline says, is that we have got so many new medications available now since Pauline was diagnosed. So the treatment for heart failure is improving an awful lot, so people's quality of life is better. And we have things like defibrillators and special sorts of pacemakers, which can also improve people's quality of life and reduce their risk as well, which is also good news. But as Pauline says, I think it's very important for people to have these community supports as well, because of the huge psychological impact. So we are calling for the government to support increased services in psychology to help these patients. In the Heart Foundation, we've got Heart Connect programs, as Pauline mentioned, in the community, and these can help people manage their heart failure and give peer-to-peer support, phone support and all that. So an awful lot is being done, and more needs to be done.
Yeah, okay. Dr. Angie Brown, thank you very much indeed. Finally, Pauline, you mentioned it being called heart failure. You know, if you do happen to have a conversation with someone, what phrase do you use? Because I presume you don't want to keep going through that, yes, it's heart failure, but look, here I am living proof that, I'm still here, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like you have to make an argument against the name of the condition that you have.
Yes. So I take it completely out of a medical kind of setting, and I call it pumps and pipes, right? So basically, my pipe work had a tear, and that was for a genetic reason, and that was fixed. But the fact that I waited so long for that to be fixed meant that the pump itself got damaged, and that's really the difference.
Do you have a frustration that you perhaps the situation is worse because you were misdiagnosed, or do you not allow yourself to get too frustrated about that?
At the end of the day, look, we have to, again, this is the mindset and the counselling where it comes in.
Yeah.
You can choose to go over and rehash, but to be honest, it's not going to do you any good physically or mentally.
Yes.
So what I've had to do is take my particular struggle and see how can I do as much good with this as possible. And that's why I do talks like this or interviews or whatever I'm asked to do, because if it's possible that my story can help somebody else, then I can kind of live with it better, that the stuff that the misdiagnosis happened, you know. It's good, it's healing for me to be able to help somebody else who might be newly diagnosed or not diagnosed for a while, but feeling stuck in the limitation of that diagnosis. So the more work we can do to help and support other heart failure patients, and indeed for other heart conditions too, the better. And it's a privilege to be able to be here today and to be able to speak, and I hope it'll give a little bit of hope to some of the people that might be listening, or maybe family members too, who equally worry so much about somebody in their family diagnosed.
Yeah, well, that message is exactly, and that message from you, because you've said it intermittently throughout the conversation, has come through loud and clear, and you're living proof of that. And I'm delighted to be able to speak to you. Best wishes to you and for your future, and to your family as well, because they all
Thank you so much.
They all kind of have your condition too, I'm sure, as well. If you get where I'm coming from in terms of being with you and supporting you and loving you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
No,
Bye-bye.
it's our pleasure to have you on. Bye-bye. Thank you to Pauline O'Shea, Dr. Angie Brown, and we'll be back with more in the 9 till noon show, including the 100. Oh, by the way, just a little bit of emerging news. It's back to this other conversation, and I'm really conscious you could be getting sick of it, but we can't ignore the biggest story in the country, can you? Ryan Tubridy's out of contract at RTE. Apparently, they were in negotiations about a new radio contract this after him leaving the Late Late Show. Those talks are now paused. So effectively, I don't know what that actually means effectively, but RTE has written to Ryan Tubridy's agent that the contract, including all arrangements therein, has come to an end. Negotiations, as I said, had commenced regarding his radio responsibilities. Those negotiations have been paused, with all negotiations as per the board statement. Right, so that means he might not get his extra 75k on top of his salary for the next 2 years. That's an emerging story. All right, back with more shortly.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Remelton from the 6th to the 10th of July. Save the date and gather your friends for an incredible lineup featuring Sharon Shannon, ABBA Sensations and Jimmy Buckley.
The world is getting a little more. But maybe more could mean something else. More means more proactive green energy solutions. More means more wind turbines and more recycling. More means more biodiversity and more energy storage. More means more hydrogen and more solar farms, because more clean energy means more efficient living, means more thriving communities, means more energy autonomy. That's why we're more than Mona. Learn more at morethanmona.ie. Board Mona.
A public interest message from Donegal County Council. Donegal County Council, in association with Bryson Recycling, are holding a half-price bulky goods event at Carndonagh, Milford and Stranraer Recycling Centres from the 26th of June until the 8th of July, during site opening times. For more information and opening times, visit donegalcoco.ie or call the council on 074 9153900. Donegal County Council, protecting your environment.
The groom goes
goes free. The groom goes free. Yes, you heard it. The Groom's Room. Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park. The groom goes free. Call in today. Terms and conditions apply.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Remelton from the 6th to the 10th of July, bringing you the super talented Sharon Shannon on Friday the 7th. See Lennon Festival Remelton on Facebook for ticket information.
Renault. As a professional, you want your van to be as efficient as you. Efficient with time and efficient with space. The new Renault Kangoo Van E-Tech 100% electric is made for you. With up to 300 kilometres of range, fast charging as standard, and 3.9 cubic metres of loading capacity. New Renault Kangoo Van E-Tech 100% electric from €96 per week for those who never stop. Offer is made under hire purchase agreement. Instalments are taken monthly. Terms and conditions apply. See Renault.ie.
The Saturday Shuffle is coming to you live this Saturday from Lidl Buncrana. Go full Lidl this summer with a family fun day. We have loads of fun activities for all the family to enjoy from 12 midday till 2 p.m. and incredible prizes to be won in store and on air. So join the Highland team this Saturday at Lidl Buncrana. Go on Buncrana. Go full Lidl today. Disney's The Lion King in Dublin. More to be seen than has ever been seen. Join Highland Radio on our trip on Thursday, 26th of October 2023 to see the award-winning Lion King the musical. Brought to you by Disney Theatrical Productions. Your trip includes luxury transfers, overnight stay at the 4-star City North Hotel Dublin on a bed and breakfast basis, and your ticket to the show. All this for just €219 per person sharing. Call 074 91 25,000 to book. A non-refundable deposit of €100 per person will hold your place. Single supplement applies. To see Disney's The Lion King in Dublin.
Okay, yes, I'm getting used to this new fader layout. I can actually put the mic up and it not be all echoey because it's the wrong one. All right, stay right where you are because this will give you a cue clue as to what we're about to do next on the show.
Business Matters in association with the ATU Donegal Faculty of Business. If you have an undergrad in any discipline and would like to reinforce it with a Masters in Business, ATU are offering their Masters in Business Management Conversion Programme. Call 9186206 or email donald.hannigan@atu.ie.
Right, stay with us, particularly if you message or text the show. That we have dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, which we will work through. Some of them, of course, as much as we can before the end of the programme. I'd be very conscious that sometimes people might text something in, and because it's not read straight away, they might think, oh, he's not reading that, or I pretty much... There's even messages that Caroline scribbles out, and I have to read the message through the scribble. So they're not, unless there's something libelous in it, they're not edited, and hopefully I'll get to yours before the end of this programme. But I've got a really... interesting guest, some would say. I'm not saying I'd say it. An interesting guest in on the programme now. It is, of course, our own Kieran O'Donnell. Hi, Kieran.
Good morning, Greg.
Presenter of the Business Matters podcast, which is live right now on our website, because I saw it scheduled last evening. You can check it out in the playback section. It's going to be in the featured story section for the next couple of hours, and you can listen to it at your leisure. It's also on Spotify and iTunes. Okay, so before we get into the nuts and bolts of what's coming up on the pod, let's talk about a little bit of news. The Donegal Enterprise Office has a bit of a boot camp coming up. It's not the first.
Yeah, such was the success, Greg, of Donegal Local Enterprise Office first Start Your Own Business one-day boot camp that it has organised a second for Saturday, July the 15th at the Clowny Hotel in Letterkenny, and that is taking place between 9:30am and 5pm. So whatever stage of the Start Your Own Business journey people are on, this one-day boot camp will empower them to develop their ideas and help them devise a plan to get their new business up and running. To register and find out more, Greg, check out Donegal Local Enterprise Office social media platforms.
Rightio. Congratulations to the Rusty Mackerel.
Yeah, the Rusty Mackerel in Teelan has won the Pub of the Year 2023 at the Irish Hospitality Awards. This is the latest award for the renowned traditional Irish bar and restaurant, which also has 13 5-star bedrooms.
Well done, everyone out there. Staying in hospitality, the Mount Errigal have an open day.
Yeah, hospitality is the theme this week, Greg. I'm just thinking they're going through it. The Mount Errigal Hotel in Letterkenny recruited 10 new staff members during its recent open day, bringing its total number of employees to around 130. This is a new and different approach to recruiting staff, and the general manager of the hotel, Conor McAnuff, told me that it's something that they'll definitely look at again, maybe at the end of the year, Greg. So it's a new way of doing things and a better way, according to Conor.
I suppose you get to see people straight away.
Well,
Is
people
that
walking
the process
in,
rather than filtering
they're getting the feel
through
for the place, and
CVs,
the employer's getting the feel for the employee, you know, so it works
and I
both
think
ways.
it's good for the employee too, because I think people can struggle a little bit to sort of hit the right note with the CV.
Yeah.
But if you're there and able to present yourself, no, I might be misreading it, but I that's one advantage I can see from it.
And obviously it's an interpersonal industry, and look, it's a new thing. It's a thing that I think they will do more of.
All right, okay, the Water's Edge has changed hands.
Yeah, a seal agreed sign has been placed outside the Water's Edge restaurant in Rathmullen. Comprising a bar, lounge, restaurant and 10 bedrooms, it has a floor area of just under 10,000 square feet. Daft.ie is handling the sale, and the selling price has not been disclosed, and the owner or the potential buyer has not been disclosed either.
Well, hopefully the new buyer got a good price, had great success, and hopefully those exiting feel that they've got their just rewards. All right, and now down to Harvey's Point on the shores of Loch Esk.
Yes, Harvey's Point has become the first hospitality venue in Donegal to receive the 50 Shades Greener Gold Level Award for Sustainable Excellence. The award-winning Donegal Town Hotel was supported on its journey through Donegal ETB's further education and training services. So, Greg, for businesses who'd like to find out how this programme could support their business to develop a more sustainable future, they can contact Enterprise Engagement at donegaletb.ie.
Right, okay. Now, as you said yourself, continuing that sort of hospitality theme, the guest on this week's pod is...
Yes, Greg, this week I'm joined by the co-owner of Cashton O'er Hotel and the co-owner of Errigal Brewing in Annagry, James McDevitt. Cashton O'er, which employs around 60 people, was opened in 2002, and last year James and his sister Anita secured a licence for their brewery. A qualified secondary school teacher, James has a huge passion for the hospitality sector and a massive gra for the Annagry area. In this clip, James talks about the setting up of Cashton O'er 21 years ago.
Right, well, you see, there's a slight problem. I don't have the clip. Caroline, could you see if production could put through James, the clip of James? I don't seem to have it here. It's just not... I should have checked beforehand, but it's always there. But not paraphrase it, just in case we get it through quite promptly. Right, 21 years.
Yeah, look, James, the family business, the business has been in the family for quite a while. His mother and father owned what was a pub there in 1978, Greg. They built the hotel in 2002. It has 16 bedrooms initially, and then they
Right, we have a technical fault, so you're going to have to give us a preview.
They added 3 more bedrooms onto it. I think it was in 2016, and they also added a ballroom, which has a capacity for 200 guests at a wedding, and I was down at a wedding there recently. So he has a huge graph for the area. It was a chance conversation and a chance meeting over the last couple of years with a few different people that led to them acquiring a brewery. They've got the licence, they've built the brewery at the back of the hotel. And
I always thought that brewery thing sort of... I honestly, you know, when it sort of started coming into the fore a few years ago,
Yes.
I thought it was a fad. I didn't realise that it is, you know, that there's a huge tourism industry to it and all that kind of stuff. And it's certainly not a fad, because there's lots of these that have been established for quite some time and are really successful.
Yeah, the one thing James actually noted, I suppose, Annagry, I mean, it has both a distillery and a brewery.
Yeah.
And for a very small, for a rural area like that, he's a big believer that tourism, you know, as an industry that needs maybe more support. As a big part of life down there. He talked too about maybe the unique welcome that the Gaeltacht area is able to afford people who come there, and we had a very good conversation. I suppose the fact that they acquired the brewery, it was something that the family had looked at developing a number of years ago. It didn't work out, and then through a number of quite just chance conversations and meetings, he's ended up setting up the brew down there beside him.
Okay, and we'll just before we get into that, you talked to this. Excuse me. I'm not saying Donegal is unique, but it's, it feels unique. It is like until relatively recent, I didn't really travel through Donegal as much as I could. I did lots of places, but it was like from where I am to somewhere. Do you know what I mean? And it's only more recently, and maybe it's through lockdown, but it came before that, though, that we've got different parts of Donegal that are like going into a different place. It's just a different feel to it. And be it the locals or the shops or the bars or whatever it might be, there is so much to explore, be it, through Inishowen and not just the beaten track of Inishowen, other parts of it, through the Gaeltacht, as you mentioned, up Fanad way, up Downings, Carragart way, a different experience, out towards Killybegs, Kilcar. Do you know what I mean? There's different, it just is a different feeling, different sense, all within this one county of our own, Kieran.
Yeah, Greg, look, I've spoken to...
the islands. I didn't mention the islands.
I've spoken to dozens of people in the hospitality and tourism sector over the last few years doing the show. I think COVID was a major turning point in what you're saying there, and it afforded people, first of all, the opportunity to go and maybe explore what was around them, and they didn't have to go too far away to get that. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Donegal has a lot to offer, and I still think COVID has been a major factor in the likes of Annagry. I was over with Kieran McHugh, who's on next week. He's over in the campsite over there, and they won an award there as well. And he's saying the same thing. COVID is actually prompting people to come, and they mightn't have to come too far away to come and enjoy his service too.
Indeed, and there was a period I had a caravan, and it pretty much was only just going around Donegal, but it was just like, even though it was your own county and people when you're there, it just felt different, felt like a holiday. Right, okay. We're going to hear now that clip from James McDevitt now. We've resolved that technical issue. Here he is. This is just part of his conversation with Kieran.
Cashlanor Hotel was set up and built in the year 2002. It was developed by my father, my brother Joe, who's deceased, and my sister Anita, and myself. My mother was also the strong force behind us all. She kept us all in line. And I suppose we had the foundations of the family business. There was a pub and a restaurant and a function room on the site where the hotel is now. And we were very fortunate to have a great thriving business. And Dom, my father, had a vision that Annagry needed a hotel, and he also believed that there was opportunities for us all to get good jobs and be fit to stay at home and not have to face the emigration that all of his generation faced.
All right, much more from James in the full podcast. The full interview available with James McDevitt to download now at highlandradio.com, or you can stream it wherever you get your podcast to, providing it's Spotify or iTunes. And if people want to listen to it on the radio, of course, Kieran?
Yeah, after the 6 o'clock news, Greg, on Sunday evening.
And if anyone wants to get in contact with you, how do they do so?
Drop me an email, please. businessmatters@highlandradio.com.
Kieran O'Donnell, thank you so much for your time, as always. We really do appreciate your efforts in getting some of that news together for us and what have you. Thanks, Kieran. Right, let's get to a few more of your comments. A lot of support for Dr. Joe Kelly. Very well said, Joe Kelly from Sean in Falcarra. Another, hope the historian hasn't forgotten the famous politics of the 80s, the politicians who told us all to tighten our belts. Okay. With reference to the RTE scandal and Ryan Tubridy, he's been very quiet in what he's been saying. He must have known he was getting this money. But it's typical. Big organisations, they put somebody under the bus to take all the blame and move on. It's nothing, as if nothing has happened. I bet you're still getting her full pension and her full payment. As for Tubridy, you should pay back all the extra money and it should be off the radio for good. I'll never listen to him again. Well, listen, I mean, at the end of the day, though, his agent on his behalf brokered the best deal he could for him. Now, we might not like how much it is. I don't know. Some people don't mind. We might not like how his agent and RTE negotiated the deal. But his agent was acting on behalf of Tubridy, and I think he's saying what he should have said is that I'm getting paid more than's being publicly declared. But if someone walked in here and I don't know what I'd do, actually. I can't say that with any honesty or truth. Hi, Greg. RTE, you've always seemed to have antipathy or at least little interest in Donegal. Very late to take an interest in the defective concrete scandal, for instance. I don't know why, really, as the late Gay Byrne always flew the flag for Donegal. Could you get an interview with Donegal woman Moya Doherty or Donegal man Joe Mulholland? Both had top positions in RTE. Well, we have tried. No joy. Other Donegal employees of RTE as well. But listen, there's one thing I think for an RTE employee, and I'd support them in what they're doing, to go out and picket or protest outside their own radio stations or TV stations because they're peed off, let's put it like that. I think it'd be a different thing, and I wouldn't expect them to go on to an independent station or a rival in inverted commas and badmouth their employer. I wouldn't expect them to. I wouldn't judge them in that. And we would ask just to see if they'd want to, but I fully understand. I wouldn't expect it, nor would I judge them for not doing so, because it's different, because it brings it outside their internal squabbles. RTE, no accountability. Judges, no accountability. HSC, no accountability. Planning, no accountability. Micah, no accountability. Abuse scandals. Children's Hospital, no accountability. False allegations, no accountability. The list goes on forever, and we will get, all we get back is waffle with little or no accountability or consequences. Common denominator, the current government and the permanent civil servant, says that listener. Love it when you have Joe on. He talks a lot of sense, and he's inherited that from his late dad. He teaches my grandchildren, and they love him as a teacher. A lot of the young Irish voters are emigrating, and that will suit those parties that have been in power since the beginning of this state. So change is hard to bring about. Yes, I see the connection you're making there. Like Dr. Joe, this country is crying out for moral leadership. Look at George Lee. He didn't last long in his attempt to try and change the political system. He said after leaving, anyone who thinks they're going to change what's going on in the Dáil, they are in dreamland. Okay, thank you for that. A few more before the break and before we bring in our next guest. Hi, Greg. Would agree with Joe. It's coming to a stage in Ireland you'd need 3 wages going into the bank every week to pay the bills. Ireland has become a joke to live in. A lot of years ago, Charles Haughey stood on RTE News and told us that we need to tighten up our belts. He was living like a king. Everyone else had nothing. What has changed over 40 years later? Not much. Why would government want to have access to whatever activities you're doing on your phone? I don't know. I mentioned that actually, and I just wanted to bring you, as I say, in another society or in another maybe news day, this would be big news. But just to let you know what happened yesterday, Justice Minister Helen McEntee has obtained a High Court order requiring telecom providers, that's your mobile phone providers, to retain certain data due to a genuine and serious threat to the state. The order will compel companies to retain user location and traffic data from mobile phones and other devices for the next year for the purpose of the safeguarding the security of the state. This was made possible due to an amendment of the Communications Act 2022, which came into operation yesterday. The amendment only allows for the general and indiscriminate retention of data when it is to safeguard the security of the state, and only when a High Court judge grants permission to do so. This can only be sought where the Minister for Justice is satisfied that there exists a serious and genuine present or foreseeable threat to the security of the state. So, I mean, this is really quite a bold move to retain all of our mobile phone and tablet data for a year. What is this threat to the security of the state? Why is no one asking that? I don't know. I'm flabbergasted by it all.
The 9 till noon show with the Lennon Festival Ramelton from the 6th to the 10th of July. Experience the incredible ABBA sensations on Saturday the 8th. For ticket information, see Lennon Festival Ramelton on Facebook.
Go full Lidl for a summer of savings just like our customers.
For me, being a new mammy, and especially when daddy's in work, it's handy for me to go grab some salads, grab some ready-made meals, everything like that. And then coming into summer, we'll hopefully have some good weather and get the barbecue rocking.
Yeah. Go on. Go full Lidl today.
Why leave all the magic moments or great scenes you've captured on your phone sitting there or in the cloud when you can have them printed at Big East Chemist? Using the McGee's app or one of the in-store kiosks, you can upload your photos from your phone, Google Photos, Facebook or Instagram and have them printed instantly within an hour or in by 10 and ready by 5. See mcgees.ie for more details. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's chemist, Letterkenny.
Donegal Town Hardware are having their Customer Appreciation Day this Saturday with incredible in-store offers. Kids face painting, ice cream van, tea and coffee, and the chance to win a Palermo corner sofa set with storage and fire pit worth over €1,300. Join us and the Dulux dog at the Donegal Town Hardware's 25th anniversary free family fun event this Saturday the 1st of July from 11 a.m.
Do you have what it takes to make it in radio? Ever dreamed of making it as a presenter on your favourite radio station? Then we want to hear from you. Learning Waves Skillnet is recruiting for its nationally recognised radio presenter course. Apply now to learn how to research, produce and present great radio content and get real-life experience in local, regional or a national radio station. Make a demo and get it on air. To find out more, visit learningwaves.ie now. Closing date for applications is the 6th of July 2023. This course is funded by Learning Waves and Skillnet Ireland. Terms and conditions apply.
Rightio, an EPA report on domestic waste water treatment systems, i.e. your septic tank, has found that half of them in Ireland failed inspections last year, 20% of those posing a risk to human health and the environment. 44% of septic tanks in Donegal failed the inspection last year. Jim Moriarty, Senior Manager in the Office of Environment Enforcement. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, okay. So what do we take from this? Like, how many, do we know how many septic tanks in total were inspected? And what happens if they failed the inspection?
Yeah, the EPA report today reports on over 1,100 inspections carried out by local authorities throughout the country. And at half of them failed is the finding in the report. This is consistent with prior years. We produce a report every year, and unfortunately the failure rate is that. But what's important really is that where failures are identified, the homeowners are issued with an advisory, a notice what to do, and then they need to follow through and ensure that the necessary works are done to fix the problems that have been identified.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's not always obvious to the owner of the septic tank that it would fail an inspection, so it might come as a shock to quite a number of people. What kind of things are they failing on?
Yeah, that's certainly true, Greg. Often septic tanks are down at the corner of gardens, so they're maybe out of sight, out of mind, but sometimes they may have an idea from a backup in the system or smells coming through the pipes or ponding evident in the garden. So people should do simple checks themselves. But the types of things that are being failed for, the most common are not desludging the tank often enough, perhaps ponding around the tank, which would be an indication that there's a leak in the tank. These are things that are being found. And as I say, local authorities issue advisory notices to people to carry out works to fix them. And about 80% of those works are done. So that's good. But there's, a 20% of them that aren't done. And in particular, some of them are a couple of years old now. It may take time to arrange to get works done. So in cases where they're open for more than 2 years, we're really calling on the local authorities involved to follow through with the householders, avail of the grants, but ensure that the risks to public health are going to be dealt with.
Is there, and we'll talk about what those risks are, is there an argument for better information to be out there for the public, i.e., does everybody know how often the tank needs to be emptied? It varies, of course, depending on its use, but what are the indicators, other than it overflowing or ponding, what are the indicators that it needs to be changed? It's a simple thing, but at the same time, it might be complex for some. I would love to just see the public empowered with information so that, we can weed out those that just don't give a damn from those that just don't really know.
That's a good point, Greg. And part of the National Inspection Plan, which the EPA draws up every year, is an engagement piece. So there are information sheets. Local authorities have them. The EPA website has information on things like how often to desludge your tank, depending on how many people are in the household. The answer to that is somewhere between 2 and 3 years for a typical household of 4 or 5 people, you need to desludge the tank, which costs €250 every 2 to 3 years. But there is good information there, and before an inspection is carried out, homeowners are given 10 days a notice, and local authorities send out information sheets to them on these types of things before the inspections are carried out. So more can be done, of course, to increase kind of awareness, but every chance that's there is being taken to try and address that.
Yeah, what are the potential environmental impacts?
Yeah, there's 2 impacts from faulty septic tanks in the main. One is a risk to public health, and by that I mean very often septic tanks are co-located with households where there's a household well. So if there's a leaky or a faulty septic tank, then a household's drinking water could become infected with sewage and cause issues from a human health point of view. So that's a risk, clearly. And then also you can get leaks from the tank, which can contaminate groundwater, get into streams and waterways, and that can lead to fish kills possibly, or can lead to damaged water quality. So human health is impacted and the environment is potentially impacted as well.
All right, Jim, thanks for your time. Jim Moriarty, Senior Manager in the Office of Environment Enforcement. A caller says, RGAA matches in Croke Park next weekend shown on ordinary TV, or does it have to be paid for under the scheme? Thanks. Well, I can tell you that Saturday's games, there's 4 cracking games. Saturday's games are only on GEA Go, so you either are a subscriber or you'll have to pay for the games to watch them. Sunday, they're on terrestrial. So that's, I can't think off the top of my head which games are on which day, but anyway. I have an irregular heartbeat and high blood pressure and sleep apnea, which there is a 2-year waiting list to be treated, which also affects my heart. My last checkup was 1.5 years ago, and I'm meant to get a checkup every 6 months. I was told my irregular heartbeat was part of my heart, was going way too fast, and I was lucky I hadn't had a stroke before it was treated. It's too long to be waiting with that hanging over you, I'm sure. Greg, 40% of people in Ireland vote for the parties that condone the greed and corruption, and they think cheating the system and the people is okay. Joe's talking the truth, but 40% don't vote at all. And they're not represented in the democratic vote, but they're not engaging it either. Hi, Greg. Northern plates, you can't tell the age of the cars. Every time a new reg comes out, you can re-register your car. Example, you can have a 1993 car on 2023 plates. Okay, listen, I was just told that once, but you're perfectly correct. You can do that here. We were asking, should we get away with putting the age of car on the number plate? And let me see. How would you feel if the year was on your shoes? Remove the year from cars 100%. Yeah, I don't like it, but I don't know if... Why don't you like it? I don't know. Why should it be there? I think it's disgusting we have to pay to watch for Gaelic football matches now and hurling. Some people don't have the money to pay for these channels, so therefore we can't support our counties. It's a disgrace, not to mention that even those that can afford it probably don't have the internet required. Hi, Greg. I love what you do for us, and I ask you to keep on keeping on. We need you. Before I'm written off as a far-right religious tin hat, may I give you the answer you're looking for? As today's troubles, the answers you seek are in the last pages of a book. It's a bit dusty, and if only for curiosity's sake, dust it off and read the last pages called The Revelations, or Revelation. It tells us word for word what's happening now and what happens next. With all my love, Dee. Listen, Dee, thank you very much for that. For some people, that is the answer. That's the solution. That's the guidance. For others, it just simply is not. But people can agree with you, but they're just not taking the guidance from that dusty book you talk of. But I appreciate your text. And why would you be a far-right religious tin hat person just because that's your belief system? You certainly wouldn't be labelled as such on this programme. But I understand the caveat, but you don't need to do it, okay? It's just your opinion, that's fine. Greg, why is there no discussion about Micheál Martin's failure to get support for getting Ireland into NATO? He says he wasn't looking to get into NATO. There's never been a plan to get into NATO. Senior civil servants getting pay rises and us retained firefighters on the equivalent of less than €2 an hour when it's worked out, and they won't budge on a pay rise or restructuring of the service. That's long past being fit for purpose. Well, if they don't, we're not going to have a retained firefighter service because people aren't going to stick it. So if they want it, they're going to have to come to the table and negotiate, because I've been speaking to a number of retained firefighters, some of them not really terribly happy with the way their situation is being messaged. by unions. They don't think the public are really getting a full grasp of what the problem is and what they want. I'm more than happy to give an actual retained firefighter a chance to explain that on the show, of course. That goes without saying. I agree 100% with Dr. Joe Kelly, as people are so busy they cannot see what is happening. Hi, Greg. I'd question the timing of the Late Late Show host's fall from grace. It all seems staged to me, and RTE needs to be investigated from the top down, and all of their associations with government need to be picked over with a fine-toothed comb. It is the independent contractors, film and video production companies that are going to suffer through no fault of their own from RTE's disregard for the public's money, though they are happy to spend it willy-nilly, they say. Government at fault for Ukraine and epidemic, a little beyond pessimistic. Has he any suggestions, or is it all negativity? I did sort of suggest that I thought the argument would be better made if it was a little bit more nuanced. So I think maybe me and you might be in the same ballpark here. They go on to say, though, that faith and optimism are lost on this fella. Politics and religion are best kept apart. He sounds like he's out of tune with Ireland now and stuck in the past. Or maybe he says there's lessons from the past that can guide our future. Good morning, Greg. I've just been listening to that guy talking about ME, and it was like talking about myself. I was diagnosed with ME chronic fatigue and was running around in circles for years with declining health. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease in 2019, and I'm on the road to recovery. If you want to give that guy my number, I'd be more than happy to talk to him. Thanks. That comes in from Anne. And it's funny. It sounded like Lyme's to me. I'm not medical advice, no, nothing. I would just like if Des maybe double-checked that he doesn't have Lyme. Dr. Lambert down in Dublin, it'd be very interesting for him to have a conversation with him, just in case. Just in case. TV licence inspector in our estate in Letterkenny today. He's got some cheek with everything going on. Come here, sympathies with him. Or her. I mean, of all the days, can you imagine? Right, come here. We're back tomorrow morning at 9. Have a lovely Wednesday. See you Thursday.
The 9 till